The streets of Salem were a terrifying sight. The witches dancing with the demons in the night. Their evil minions watch the town while it's in bed. Wish 'em dead, wish 'em dead, wish 'em dead. Old Reverend Paris knew that something was amiss. He felt the evil from a spiritual abyss. He knew the time had come to purify the town. Hunt 'em down, hunt 'em down, hunt 'em down. No time was wasted in assembling a squad. This pitchfork army on a mission sent from God. No witch was safe from Reverend Paris's brigade. Their crusade, their crusade, their crusade. Call the magistrate and don't you wait another minute, 'cause this town is going to hell if we don't put away the sinning. And we got no time to let a jury have their turn. Let 'em burn, let 'em burn, let 'em burn. The damned were crammed into a carriage on the square. Their faces battered and their bodies all were bare. The Reverend led them to an isolated hill. Time to kill, time to kill, time to kill. One by one their necks were snapped beneath the cedar tree. The spirits vanished and the demons all were free. They dug a hole to hold the devilish remains. They were slain, they were slain, they were slain. The town was safe from all those wicked dissidents. They could continue with their life of innocence, dispensing justice from a higher power. They built a church atop the spirits and the bones. Their moans were heard as they were laying down the stones. But the witches got revenge beneath that steeple bell. They cast a spell, sent the Reverend to hell.
All right. Okay, well, it is Monday, and for me, Monday is like my Sunday. I'm always kind of one off from everybody else. So for me, my Monday actually starts on Tuesday. So why not stream on a Monday? But for folks that are working, and if you're able to listen in, that's awesome. I'm glad that you're able to. And just one second here, I have to fiddle with my screen. All right, here we go. I didn't want to cam up today because I wasn't feeling it, but I cammed up today for reasons. This might not last. But anyway, yeah, so I had on Twitter gotten a confrontation with EKC probably a couple months ago, and it was over her pulling the R report, and I was challenged to a debate. And I thought, oh, okay, well, I first of all, I don't think debates actually solve problems and convince and win hearts and minds typically. But, if you want to just lay the facts out there and lay the perceptions out there and how people view things, and you can do that. And I had agreed. And then it was kind of weird because it was like, well, now you have to go through Mod X to get anything done, and he can set it up. And I don't particularly trust or value Mod X in any way whatsoever. So I was like, no. And then it was like kind of arguing about what platform she wanted on her platform, and like, no. And so we kind of did like a dance for a little bit, and trying to find a middle ground platform that wasn't just it's just really difficult on this sort of thing. It just sort of, and then I had some serious life issues that like I just was like, okay, this is going to go on pause. And then when I came back, there was this CP is satire incident. And then after the CP is satire incident, and I watched her say, why do you want my kids in CP so bad? I was like, this person is so dishonest and revolting that I just can't handle her. Like, not that I can't handle her, like I'm intimidated, just like I will be mean, and I don't want to be mean. I just kind of put on a big pause of like, I don't want to engage. But at this particular time, I felt like I could engage without getting mean, without, getting, flamethrower and throw gasoline everywhere, because I can do that. I think I'm a human being like everybody else, and I can lose my temper. But at that time, I felt like, oh, I'm pretty chill right now at this moment. And I really didn't like what you said to me. So I guess I'll confront you back. So, we had an incident, and I'll go over that in a bit. But first, I want to say hi to chat. And I want to give you a warning. This does touch on the subject of rape. And I want to give you, and I said the word, so YouTube's going to be mad. I said the word because it's serious, and I wanted to discuss really quick that for some folks this could be very triggering. A lot of folks are already familiar about the situation, so they know. But I wanted to put a heads up ahead of time that, spoiler alert, somebody pulled somebody's R report and then dispersed it to a few people online, and then discussed it for the sake of defending a police officer. That's their excuse. So I wanted to give you that heads up because it's upsetting and disturbing, and I think a lot of people would agree. So I just wanted to not shock anybody in the next minute or so. So if this is not for you, I completely understand. It like half of my time in existence, it's not for me, and the other half I can handle it. So it kind of depends on where I'm at the time. So I get it. If I use humor, it's to relieve the situation. I don't not take these things seriously. It's just that life is awful, and you have to find something to laugh at. And people are weird. And in the end of the day, people can be awful online and awful, around you. But at the end of the day, I pet my dog. I love my husband. I take walks at the beach. I have a life. I have neighbors. I have friends I can connect with. And at the end of the day, I can look at things in life that are much more happier than Karens that pull our reports. So that being said, I just want to give that full disclaimer out there that, it's something to be aware of. So I just wanted to say hi to chat real quick. Exiled is always lovely to see you. And Frost Lake, welcome. Stitching with Sisterlies, welcome. Unirock, welcome. Science First, welcome. Good to see you, Kathy. I never can say your name right because of G-Man ruining it. Phalo Blue, welcome. And then that Amber chick, Rebus, welcome. April, welcome. Cindy Sue, welcome. Uncle Beck, welcome. Uncle Beck! I always want to yell your name for some reason. Fiona Robertson's welcome. D. Smith, welcome. We appreciate you for showing up. So I'm going to try to make this as painless as possible, but I have to tell you, I came out of this with a headache. I think that Tina's, when she gets passionate about something or gets mad, her default speaking voice is pretty grating. And, it is a little bit stressful. So sometimes sometimes, you just need an Advil and take a nap after these situations. So anyway, so yeah, I guess I will play the incident and we'll start there. And this might be a couple, this might be a couple videos. We'll see. So let me unshare this and I will switch screens. That's not what I wanted to share. All right. I threw a couple wrenches out to folks. The rule for modding around here is if it breaks TOS, get rid of them. If it's a bot, get rid of them. But generally, if somebody comes in with a difference of opinion or snacky attitude, I don't care. If somebody's really, really attacking somebody and hounding somebody in chat after they've said they want to be left alone several times, I have a problem with that eventually. Like just, put them on timeout. But generally speaking, I don't care about pushback. I don't care about people lulzing. Doesn't worry me. So, all right. So 1 second here. They changed the setup for how the screen shares. And so I just want to make sure I'm on the right one here before I screen share. Stand by. I think this is the one. There we go. Okay. So before I go to the video with the incident, and I like to show the chat too. This is about as big as I think I can blow it up with the chat showing. If I don't want their chat showing, then I'd have to change it. But what I think I'm going to do is play this video as an opener, just for a little extra context of kind of how EKC's brain works. So. No sound. Okay, we're going to try this again. Good feedback. With no sound, we're going to unshare and reshare as we do. Nope. Completely unshare. And I'm going to reshare. And I'm going to click this little button that everybody misses. And here we go. This should work. Let's try again.
Okay, I am streaming this as unlisted because I am still sick and I don't have editing in me today or much of anything else. And I want to try and get through this very quickly because I want to also schedule a live stream to cover some other shit. But I don't know how much I got left in me. So let me just get right to the point here. Since I've been sick, since like last Saturday, 6 days ago, I've tried to catch up on some shit on Twitter. It's taken a little while, but I mean, there's some things I caught up on, and I don't know. The shit being said, I find to be kind of ridiculous. Like, I'll get to that one in a second. Actually, let me put this in a different tab, not to lose it. Okay.
Don't be a dick. Exactly.
Where like this one here, like this, I had made a tweet. I put a tweet out saying, anyone refusing to show evidence simply does not have any evidence. And once again, the one hiding behind the anonymity is talking about truth surfacing. Honest people don't need to hide. Only those people with shit to hide need to hide. And I stand by this, okay? Because let me be very frank here. If you're going to make an outrageous claim, or a pretty substantial claim, a claim that will alter the course of a discussion, then you need to provide evidence or proof, or at the very least, you need to provide the credibility of the person making the claim. And if you do none of this, then the person making the claim behind anonymity is nothing more than a shit talker. Okay, that's just the facts of the matter. Okay, and
So it's interesting. We can discuss like maybe how like victims should be able to share their story without pushback or somebody pulling their R report. But also we could talk about maybe like I think there's conversations about naming people and not naming people, things like that. Going for those are conversations to have. But it's interesting that there's sort of a default of I don't know what to say, like Karening this. Like, I have a right now because you said something publicly about your victimhood and you said something negative about a police officer that handled your case. I have a right now to pull that report, and it's just strange to me.
Yeah, they're a shit talker because they're not providing any proof or evidence to back their claims, nor are they providing anyone to face accountability for their claims, should their claims be proven false or whatever. You're providing nothing. You're hiding. It's kind of being a pussy, if I'm going to be honest here. I don't know how else to call it. I don't like to use that term because whatever, but definitely being a coward.
I think it really shows how much EKC does not believe that KJP is a victim, because she wouldn't speak this way unless she completely dehumanizes KJP. Like there's just an assumption that just from the get-go that this person is a liar. And I think that's a very dangerous thing to do, because there are people that we dislike strongly. There are people that could be narcissists. There are people that could be people that just do bad things or have bad takes or have harmed people, and they still can be a victim. It's like it's not like just because I dislike someone it's impossible for them to be a victim of something. And I think it's very dangerous, and that's just my impression from all the things that you've said, and kind of putting it together going, I definitely sense and see this about you, that it just sort of drips off of you.
I'm going to say that much. And other than that, there's some other mostly tweets. People seem to be really upset about mine and Unirock's stream. And I really hope Unirock isn't like kind of feeding.
Yeah. Most of us didn't like that stream.
Into it or falling for it or whatever, or buying into it. I don't know, however you want to word it. It looks like maybe he is, but I really hope he's not. I would hope that he would just, I don't know, be more of a, person who stood by themselves. But I want to just say that, yeah, mine and Unirock's discussion, like Unirock, for real, I did think it was going to be more of a debate. And I thought that because of all the back and forth and everything on Twitter leading up to,
frankly, I thought it was going to be debate too, but it definitely was like a hey man, let's have a nice chat and high tea. But I mean, that's just kind of how he is. He doesn't really hardcore debate and go in for throats. Like he has like a very long, drawn out conversation.
The agreement of this debate, and right up until like where we set a date and shit, it was that back and forth banter that led me to believe that, and I think much of other people to believe it. It wasn't until I think it was the day of the live stream where you had tweeted to me saying, "Oh, just relax, it's just a conversation or whatever." That's when it dawned on me, like, "Oh, okay, so I guess it's not going to be a debate." But I still thought maybe it will be. I don't know, but I was definitely under the impression that that was not going to be the case. So, and don't get me wrong,
some of us are discussers, some of us are grapplers, some of us are debaters, some of us are rhetoricians. I'm pretty good at rhetoric, but I'm not necessarily the best at data. I would have to have it all lined up ahead of time.
Loved it. I loved our conversation. I hope we had more of them, whether they're on stream or off stream, whatever. I do. I hope we have more of them. I really enjoyed it. In fact, like there's, as far as the whole vaccine community, there's a lot of other shit that I'm involved in and doing behind the scenes. It's not for public consumption or whatever, but it's like real life stuff too, even. And
behind the scenes things that she's doing. Yeah. Gosh, well, I hope you're not an advocate for anybody. It'd be terrifying.
is someone like you I think would be awesome to be able to come to for advice or whatever, or even if you wanted to work with me on it, because the state in which you live in is like one of the major ground zero
She's
states for the entire
coddling
like
coddling the ego of Unirock because that works.
Kind of sucks. So if any chances
her.
of that are just shot, I really hope not. But why people have an issue
You
with
just
this
do
is
such a
beyond me.
great
I don't get it.
job.
What the fuck is the problem? What do you care? Why do you care? I mean, really, it's like people just wanted me to show up on stream for everyone to just scream at me about what a shit person I am. And let's be honest about this here, okay? The reason why people want to call me a shit person is because they think I'm some sort of R apologist or whatever. They want to throw in my face how I read this R report or whatever. Little Red and
I don't think you're necessarily an R apologist because you didn't defend David Earl Worden, but you definitely defended the guy that defended David Earl Worden. And the way that you defined our apology was definitely a straw man. It was just like a repeat of how Red Rhetoric explains it. And I have it in like a video somewhere, and I'll have to dig it up another time. But you need to work on the definition of that, I think, in my opinion. Also, you seem to be really focused in on coddling Steve's ego and doing damage control and PR spin. And you're just sort of like an older Cheshire. Like that's really what it is. You're doing the same job with no pay, and it's hilarious.
I did our live stream there in the end of October 2020. And sure, yeah, we caught a little bit of shit for it, but we didn't catch a whole lot of shit, at least not by today's standards anyways. By comparison, we didn't catch much shit at all. But my shit that I've been catching, it really didn't start until like around, I don't know, May, June, maybe 2021, months later.
That's Alice, by the way,
I started to
Island
speak
Mama,
highly or show any kind of support for Steve against Katie. That's when people really started to come at me for this shit. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw that out there. That's one of you people. If you never tweeted at me before about Mine a Little Red Stream until spring of 2021, then you are an exploitative piece of shit who uses R as a weapon against people.
So here's where she does the turnaround. So one of the things EKC has a few different tools. They're not very good tools, by the way. So let me explain. One of them is whataboutery. It's the hypocrisy for me. So she can prove some sort of hypocrisy or perceived hypocrisy. She thinks it's sort of like a get out of jail card free, like thing. I've said that all out of order. But if she can show the hypocrisy, she thinks that's a big gotcha, and it'll shut people up. And it's like, well, you have nothing now because you too are this way or whatever. Another thing she likes to do is know you reverse. I know you are, but what am I? And that is really dishonest. And we saw that with the CP thing. That's, it wasn't that big of a deal. Like CP is just satire. And then when some people called her out on it, she said, oh my God, why do you want my children in CP so bad? What she did to me when I confronted her was, oh my God, you must be obsessed with R. What she does is she reverses it on you and says, if you bring this up at a later date, it means that you are weaponizing R. You are re-victimizing victims. We heard this from Manya several times, right? Manya, who gladly told a lie about essay 50 times. She retweeted 50 times. I wish I was lying. It sounds like it's hyperbolic, but it was counted. It is documented 50 times she retweeted a lie about sexual assault. Meanwhile, chanting, and this is Manya, you're re-victimizing victims. So the same thing, the same mantra that the sister wives chant is the same thing, bullshit thing that EKC is repeating. There are reasons why I didn't get into it at the time when it happened. One reason is I was like, who the fuck is EKC? And I was learning very slowly. Another reason was I had a death in the family. I had COVID and I ended up with long COVID. It just wasn't the time to get into a spar with people. But I would hear things about it quite a bit. And I heard a lot of folks, a lot of women particularly, were disgusted by her and were shocked by it and thought it was disgusting and foul and just dark and low and making people feel generally unsafe. Yes.
People you don't like. Wow. That's pretty fucking bad. Just saying. Now, moving on. So yeah, it seems like much of the shit I didn't catch until the shit was Steve. Okay. And don't get me wrong here, guys. I get it. Steve can be kind of a pain in the ass. I get how he can get on your nerves. He can get on your skin. Okay. I'm not saying I don't see this at all ever. I might be able to see it a little. But you know what? As his friend, I ignore it. I move on. I just move on. And I'm sure that he does the same exact thing to me when I have the same effect on him. I'm sure I had the same effect on a lot of people. And a lot of people just ignore it and move on. And believe me, I'm very grateful and thankful for that. Okay. But I get it. So just move on. Just fucking move on. Like, what is this even over anymore? Really? You mean to tell me that you're still...
So you're not allowed to decide when people can move on when they have a problem or not. I love people that demand grace, because people that demand grace are interesting because they want to abuse grace. I have been around, and I'm just going to use this as an example. I've been around fundamental Christians quite enough that abuse the concept of forgiveness and grace, so much so that they allow abusers to walk. Like seriously, like serious abusers. Your dad beat you, or your priest molested you. Well, it's no big deal, like you have to apply grace. You have to, it's forced, and you have to forgive. And grace by definition is a gift that you do not deserve. And I'm sorry, but nobody gets to demand that of me. And nobody gets to demand that of anybody. And so I think one of the things that maybe EKC might be missing is she thinks that this is just a violation towards KJP, but I don't think so. After talking to a lot of women, I have found that a lot of women find it's a violation just against anybody that's been a victim, anybody that's experienced this or had to go through that. It's violating towards your fellow women. And I think that's what's really shocking and appalling. And that's just my opinion. So many words, so little substance. Yeah. But it's interesting how slippery she likes to get and how much she likes to reverse things.
Really fucking pissed off because he had some shit guest on, and I don't even know what year was that. It was like 2018 or something, maybe. I don't even fucking know what year it was.
Yes, he had a rapist on and then said that he was innocent for fucking no reason.
2019? Are you really that upset about that still?
Yeah, that's pretty upsetting.
Because that's kind of crazy.
That's not crazy. It's not crazy to be upset at somebody that welcomes to the dinner table predators, that invites them into community, that gives them not only just a platform. That's what everybody thinks it's about, but it's, for a lot of people, that's not what it's about. But for me, I think the platform is part of it. Gives them an invite to sit at the table and pretend that they're not the predator that they are. I'm sorry, but no. And then eventually he recants, but after how long? And after doubling down how much? So yeah, he called a violent rapist an honorable man. So yeah, it's not crazy. So I'm just going to stop it here and just sort of kind of give you a little bit of context of that. And then I'm going to go to the meat and potatoes of what I was here for in the first place. So this is longer than I remembered. So, all right, we're going to flip it over to this one. And here we go.
Oh yeah, see, I don't even care about the picture. I don't care. To me, that's not even the whole issue. It's the way in which this is going about, like the way this is being handled. Like Julie being in the live stream chat and then up on panel, she gave her opinion. But that wasn't, obviously Justin didn't agree with her opinion. Okay, so you agree to disagree. You did your part, whatever, move on. But no, she wanted to keep arguing about it. It was crazy. And yeah, I mean, why is it that they're all like, who was it that even started that rumor or whatever about how he must be into like all that nasty ass shit or whatever because of the picture? Oh yeah, that was right. It was someone from Unirock Circle. Yeah.
So she's complaining about justice for Justin being called a name, and then that somebody from Unirock server that called him a name. And I was just pointing out like the threat meter of being broken. Like you are pearl clutching over a name. Oh, someone called him a name. And then, but this is the same person. Names are bad, and I said this in chat. I said, names are bad, but pulling our reports are fine. And I put like dash EKC, like this is how she thinks. And so this is what was the catalyst of her to say this coming up.
Yes, pulling our reports are fine, HolySpackle, when you're proving that the police officer did his job and how and why he did his job. That is absolutely fair game, especially when that person went public with all the information themselves. How quickly we forget. So here, let me put it in the chat here to remind everyone what it is Katie said and put out there. Since HolySpackle teams, it's so important to talk about this yet fucking again. Jesus Christ, you're like obsessed with R, aren't you? It's fucking gross at this point. But here, let me pull this up for you and share the link. This is what I'm going to do every time HolySpackle, one of her ilk, want to come around and start dropping this shit, okay? I'm going to just keep reminding everyone what it is Katie Joy said and did. That's what I'm going to do.
So every time you say something, I'm going to dig deeper and deeper and deeper. So every time you say something, I'm going to make it so I hurt the victim so that you will shut up. And then it will be your fault.
Come on. My computer is so slow. Yes, and in here, in this Google Drive link I'm about to share, you will find all the posts that I collected. Like everything in this folder is what I sent to the police department.
Boy, does she collect a lot.
You'll find the live streams that Katie did where she disparaged this officer and told all that bullshit. You will find all the posts that she has done, how she outed everyone, how she fucking outed everyone. Which is, I mean, as far as the person it is.
Again, you can have a conversation about, you know, should victims out everybody? So like we understand that people feel like the legal system fails. And the Me Too movement is about like saying, like, this happened to me. This is my story. But then, you know, like, could somebody be falsely accused and things like that? That could be a conversation to have, but not the way that this is being done. And so it's one of those things where there's some sort of certainty that a wrong has been done to the police officer. And so this Karen is going to pull the R report and then go and contact the police and make a big deal and go make a hangout about it and then disperse the R report to multiple people. Remember, she said in another video, I don't care if I gave it to 4 people or 400 people. So, you know, like, this is not really how somebody's supposed to go about this. I don't think, I think the system wasn't designed for this sort of vigilante justice done via YouTube, but here we are.
Is the person she's accusing, I don't give a shit about that, whatever. But my whole thing was the officer. So yeah, when someone's lying about a victim's advocate in such a manner,
Nikki,
because she's just upset
yes,
because things
I finally have super chat.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
That person, that advocate deserves to have someone come to their defense because they can't do it. They're obligated. They're bound by ethics. They can't do it themselves. They don't have a voice. So yeah, I nominated myself to be that voice because no one else was fucking doing it. So here we go.
So EKC sees herself as some sort of hero. And I would like, unless Alice does something like substantially horrible, I'd like Alice to remain in chat. I don't really care. So just, you know, if she does something awful like doxy or anything like that, then yeah. But if she's just disagreeing, let her disagree. Fiona says, what was it EKC said about KJP? Oh, yeah, she deserves to be humiliated. It was nothing to do with defending the cop. She did say that. It was on Twitter. And again, like, there's so many receipts on all this. Like, it's hard to have them all lined up in a queue. I probably just need to make a video so that everything's just like laid out, like clear instead of just alive. But yeah, that was on Twitter. She deserves to be humiliated. If that wasn't like... if that wasn't like a card tip to who EKC is, I don't know what. And it really stood out to me as well.
Well, here's the link if anyone wants to check it out. And you can thank HolySpackle for this shit.
See what she did? She said, I'm going to do all this stuff and you can I'm going to hurt this victim. I'm sorry, but this is what's coming across. I'm going to hurt this victim and you can thank HolySpackle for that.
Thanks.
I'm really aware of what you're doing here, and I'm sorry, but it's pretty clear.
HolySpackle. Wow. I don't even know how your mind works, how you get to that point about HIPAA, negative about your doctor. Yeah, no. But yeah, I imagine if you start telling all kinds of bold-faced lies like that about your doctor, yeah, I would think someone could come to your defense. I'm not quite sure how though, because you can't really exactly like submit a FOIA request for the doctor's notes.
Thank God you can't submit a FOIA request for doctor's notes. I was pointing out that, like, there's a lot of people that have experiences when they're in distress or trauma, and they will have negative things to say about the cop that handled their case or the doctor that did surgery, and they come out and they go, "Oh, well, this doctor fucked up," or, something like that. And so, like, the reason why I was sort of comparing the two was the expectation of privacy. A victim comes forward, there's anonymity given to the victim prior to the case and after the case, redacted. Now, a victim could tell their story or whatever, but I think you made it pretty clear and pretty out there, a lot of her information that she didn't choose to share. So yeah, I see the correlation between both the HIPAA situation and this. I kind of think it's weird that you can't. But what's interesting is if I was to choose one that I would less want out there, it would be the HIPAA stuff. If you said, "Oh, well, you got your gallbladder taken out," which is true, I would be like, "Well, that's information that you didn't necessarily need." It's kind of creepy and weird, but also, like, it's one of those things where, like, it's less, I don't know, detrimental to one's being. Where in this case, like, you were legally able to get this, and it's great that you're running around saying, well, it's legal, but it's not moral. Legality isn't morality.
Because, like you said, HIPAA. So yeah. I'm sick. See a therapist. Okay, I'll get right on that. Thank you for stopping by. Bye-bye.
Give me 1 second. Someone's at my door. I'm going to go take care of this. I'll be right back. I'm going to give you I'll just leave it here. I'll be right back. All right. Sorry about that. That was my neighbor. We had an incident yesterday where somebody decided to Applebee's somebody else in the courtyard. I live in an okay area, but I guess people are stressed out these days. So anyway, moving on.
Oh, hey, HolySpackle, I had the link there. Why don't you grab it? Why don't you come on up? Why don't you come on up and talk to me? Okay, you're more than welcome to. Now, what's up with this other account? I don't know who that is.
Now you make me want to have pizza. Damn it.
Jack, no, that's not Spackle's point. Bless your heart, though.
Bless your heart.
I couldn't have gotten that outcome because it was only applying for the report.
Click the link right now.
That led actually Katie learning about what I did. That led to Katie finally filing this complaint against this detective, which led to the department investigating his.
Jack and Danny says, I think Spackle's point is that you could have still gotten an outcome without reading the report on a KJ channel. So in a sense, yeah, that's true. That's true. You could have reached out to the police, and that's that. If that was true, that's a good point, Jack.
Actions way back in 2007, when she was saying that this all happened, and it was upon them reviewing all the evidence, which was the recording of the interview, where Katie says that all this shit happened. It was upon reviewing that the department quickly determined her claims to be unfounded. So yeah, I couldn't have gotten the same result without going that route. Okay, thank you, Rose. Awesome, I'll check them out. I'm trying to mod here the chat with you guys, but I'm not seeing anything really come up at this point. I think they may have left or something. I don't know. Just all good. All good.
Here's the start of Tina in chat. Notice none of us go into other people's live chats and bully and harass them.
I didn't honestly expect anyone to take the link there. I mean, you mean I miss Letitia's condition? I don't understand. She has a condition? Yeah, Katie had tried writing this whole narrative that the reason why her case was prosecuted is because the detective didn't believe her. The detective called her liar. The detective said that she was a child girl or whatever who didn't get a phone number. The detective berated her, quote, berated her for over 2 hours to the point where she was in tears.
She said that detective berated her to the point
the reason why it wasn't prosecuted is because there wasn't enough evidence. And in fact, when the forensics came back, it didn't support her version of events. That's not to say that her version isn't true or accurate. That's not what I'm saying. But that's just what the forensics showed. So they wouldn't have prosecuted something that was, so unlikely. Hey, hi.
I didn't send it the right way. I like when you send it to me from Facebook.
So Tina's here to defend Aaron against bullies.
Because then I can get my avatar and everything. But I just had to jump on because I'm like so sick of the bullying. Like, why do you have to go to somebody's stream that you don't like just to bully and harass them relentlessly?
Mm-hmm.
Like, when do we do that to anybody? I don't do it to Katie. I don't do it to Uni. I don't do it to anybody. Why? Just why?
Yeah. I don't know.
It unenjoyable. You know what I mean?
But you got a TRO, Tina. But didn't you? You got a TRO.
I was talking about this in my stream that I did at like 5 a.m. this morning. But I was talking about Julie Virgo, and I was saying how it seems like anytime I've gone to war with someone, Julie was always on the other side, which is fine. It's not even like that. But I think that that's because the other side was always the side that was actively trying to come at someone, to hate someone with this moral authority. Trying to cancel someone, to get them deplatformed. That's what the other side has always done. And it seems like there's a group of people
done messed up
who
here. Hang on.
live for that.
Stand by.
Dude, it's always the same.
On here.
It's always
that was
the
crazy.
Same
Sorry about
group
that.
Of people. If you sit back and pay attention and you're not involved in any of it, and you
she really gets upset at moralizing and having a point in morality. I just kind of want to hit on this really quick. EKC, your moral structure sucks. It sucks balls. And for somebody to be so close to Steve, who also sucks balls at it, by the way, who claims he's a virtue ethicist, but he's really utilitarian and he doesn't fucking admit it. But he pretends to be a virtue ethicist, which is not at all the case. He just says he's virtuous and declares it, so it must be true. He's just super honest. He declares it, so it must be true. But he's not. But for you, yours is different. Yours is moral relativism, and it's at its worst. So you could be a moral relativist and have a moral structure still, and the moral relativists will say, like, morals might change depending on the society view that we live in, just depending on your perspective and experiences, depending on the context, all sorts of things, But you take that, and then what you do is, I mess up, I pull our reports, I'm vindictive, I'm a spy for anti-vax stuff, going over to grieving parents and playing spy games. I'm all this person. I'm rude. I'm terrible. I'm a sister wife. I suck. So therefore, everybody sucks. We all suck. Everybody. So just own your suckage and never do better. And I would say that if you were like, a fundamentalist Christian quoting Romans 3:23, for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Okay, like, yes, we all mess up. We all fuck up. We all make mistakes. Like, that's not like a newsflash. But the difference is that you go, therefore, you are obligated to give me grace. And also, therefore, like, you could never call me to the carpet on anything, or we can never hold each other accountable in any way, because we all suck. We all are just bad. And I'm sorry, but that's just a sorry excuse. I don't like it. I don't buy it. I think it's hilarious. I think it's a very weak moral view, very weak for challenging yourself to do better. And yeah, it sucks.
Realize, like, it's the same group of people involved in the drama every single time.
Yeah.
Every time.
When I was looking at Justin's chat there from Justice for All on his other channel, Clutches and Pearls, when Julie Virgo was up trying, give him shit about this picture, whatever. I look at the chat and there's CJ. I see Kay Baxter in the fucking chat, and it's like, oh, it is. It's the same group of people, and they all seem to have found a home there in Unirock's server and Unirock's live stream chat. I mean, some of them even have wrenches. Like T. Spearson is a
CJ is fucking baller. I'm just saying.
Fucking wrench,
Of course they do. Of course they do.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, everybody.
It's crazy.
I'm so tired of it. What's funny is I really do think that they've all come, my whole theory, I believe they've all
Lisa is uninvited.
Because, even
if you have a spanner, Lisa is uninvited from my channel. It is out of kindness. I wish you peace and respect, Lisa. But get off my channel for the 10,000th time. I don't think it's good for you. I don't.
I fall out with somebody, right? Say I fall out with somebody. I've fallen out with a few creators. Everybody knows I fell out with Little Red. I do not go around and bash her. I do not go into her live chat, and I don't want any harm to come to her. I want her to be happy, joyous, and free, right? Like, I don't wish any ill will. I don't nothing. But these people seem to be the complete opposite of that. Like, they don't have their own life or something, so they have to stop bully, harass, and constantly talk about us. I haven't been live with you in how long? And they're still talking about me, right? They're still tweeting about me. I might comment about him if somebody.
Tina, you made quite an impression, and you got a TRO on you.
Post something,
or almost, at least, almost. I think it was backed out of, but still, like, they don't just fall from the sky.
But I'm on a locked account. I'm not commenting to cause them harm. If they happen to see it.
Why does commenting cause harm? I really want to know about that. Like, why is that harmful?
They're stalking me. If they happen to get screenshots from people want to cause problems. It's none of their business what I say. I'm on a locked account. I'm not trying to cause them harm. I don't see it that way from them, right?
Yeah, like you're saying, like, I'm sitting over here on my channel. I'm not bothering anyone. Once in a while, maybe I'll reply to a tweet. Usually when I'm tagged in it, though, for some fucking reason. But even then, I'm not coming at anyone. But here's HolySpackle back in the chat. Only now she's starting fights with other chat members, like Negative Exponents here. I know I'm seeing, but yeah, she won't.
Thirsty.
Okay, well, we're not HolySpackle. We're not Steve. Steve can do what he wants. That's his thing. Why are we being held accountable for what somebody else does?
Because you held hands with Steve. You supported Steve. He uses you both. And yes, I notice that there's a cyclical kind of relationship between you, especially earlier on. Don't pretend like I like that face group book that you guys had where he was an admin of. Like, that's fucking hilarious. Like, you guys are ridiculous.
Not have any nothing. I didn't watch it. I don't know what he said. I wasn't involved in it. Why are you coming here and involving us in it?
Yeah,
It's not
because
us. We're separate because we're friends with Steve. That's why you're doing it, but it's separate.
Nope, it's not. It's not. It's so intertwined and funny. Like it's literally like, we hate KJP, so therefore let's hold hands.
Mhm. If it
I'm
never
so tired of
stops,
seeing them bully you. I'm so tired of it.
HolySpackle, if it never stops, then just go away. You don't have to sit here and witness it if it never fucking stops. You seem to be
Right.
subjecting yourself to the shit that never fucking stops. Go someplace else then.
You know what's funny is
You can
I
leave.
have not spoke hardly at all in months. I don't go to live chats. I don't watch
Oh.
live videos because I get too upset, right?
Um,
I get angry, and that doesn't serve me.
I noticed you get really upset. Like, I don't know what's going on with you, Tina, but you need to figure out how to self-regulate. I'm just saying.
So the HolySpackle wants to join us now.
Okay, let's go.
Okay.
I specifically
Hey there.
joined because I'm laughing because Tina's like over the top and just like bullying and stuff. And so that's why I'm laughing. I'm sorry. I really wanted to talk to Tina. I've never gotten a chance to talk to you. And I just wanted to ask you really quick, how come people can't criticize Erin or show up in chats with Erin or clip Erin or lulls a little bit in her chat as we do, or call her to carpet on things that we think that are not right? But you and others every day go against Katie and pull out all of Katie's wrongdoings, or sometimes just nitpick her for no reason. And that's somehow different and not bullying. But
It
what
is.
I do is bullying. Please explain why. I'm
Here's
curious.
here's the thing.
We're not in Katie's chat. We're not in her fucking chat.
I don't comment behind a block. I have Katie blocked. Katie has me blocked, from what I understand. I do not comment behind a block. I do not go and try to cause her harm. I do not do the things that other people are doing. You're here if you want to have a conversation.
Well, it's interesting here. Like, I do not comment behind a block, but you do. You do, because I've been on the same threads as you, and you are commenting. You are like unshown. I'm not asking anybody to tell me what you're actually saying, but I am watching EKC respond back to you. So you do.
And have a conversation, right? Like, we're all adults. Have a conversation. I respect that you came on. You want to have a conversation. Cool. But why go in the chat and bombard the chat and go after people and cause discourse? Why do that? All it does is upset people. Why don't you go somewhere where you're celebrated and
Go where you're
you like
celebrated.
people?
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, and
You have
where
a
you
bingo
like
card.
people.
What
I
does-
don't
what
go
does-
into,
what does
I
that
don't go
mean?
into Uni Rock's chat. I
That's
don't
what she
watch
says a
him.
lot.
I
So?
do. And I mean it. Like, I don't go and give somebody a view that I don't like. I don't go and I got blocked on Unirock's chat 2 years ago in 2000, the beginning of 2020 or the end of 2000.
Yeah, Uni's more of a blocker than I am. Yeah, it happens.
2019. Why would I go watch him? He blocked me from speaking. He was talking about me and blocked me from speaking. What does that say to you? To me, it's very dishonest, disingenuous. It's pushing a narrative.
Narrative.
So-
Narrative.
Whatever it is, whatever
think-
he said about
do you
me,
think
he
he's
called
paid
me an
by
old
Katie?
man. What?
You think he's paid by Katie?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's
what do you think he
screenshots of
makes?
Todd saying that he's paid. I don't know what he makes. I don't know.
Claim on the floor, folks. Uni is paid by KJP. You'll see that same claim come from Rev Ruin yesterday, who knows so much in the 2 seconds he was on the server.
Know how he affords to live. I don't know how he affords to obsess about Steve 24/7. I don't know. I know that I'm not involved with him. I don't watch him. I don't listen to him. I don't get clips about him. I don't typically get screenshots about him. I don't care because he's dishonest. He's lied about me over and over and over. He called me an old man, a dirty old man. Obviously, I'm not an old man, right? Like, I've proven that.
I don't know how you identify, but I assume female, and I could be wrong. EKC looks really mad. She looks like I'm coming for Tina and that. I'm not, actually. I am making a joke, though, because it's very common for her chat to misgender me. So, like I was just like, well, I don't know how you identify it because you're completely a avatar to me. I don't know. There's only some clues I get, like your name.
I am a female. That's
Okay.
how I identify.
I identify as a female. Day is acceptable. I'll take it. I'll own it. I don't care. But she, myself. So, okay.
Well, anyway, the only reason I started a channel is because Unirock spewed his lies about me. And when I figured out that all he wanted from me was to talk about him so he could have content, I quit talking about him. I don't pay him any attention, right? Katie's a little different because I've had some serious issues. I've had real life consequences with Katie over lies.
I've been trying to understand you particularly, and I think that's why I jumped in really more than anything. The reason why I went for Tina in conversation and not EKC is because Tina will talk more. She'll give you more. Now, you can laugh at my assessment and call it calculated. It kind of is. when you're in a panel or a group in a sudden confrontation, usually you can read the room and the personalities, and you'll wonder which one is the like fountain that's just gonna blurt things out. That's gonna be fucking Tina. I wanted to know, I get to hear a little bit of why Suzanne's so mad at Katie, but I don't understand how come you're so upset at Katie, particularly Tina. I wondered why.
I'm not necessarily upset at Katie. I don't like what Katie represents. I don't like that Katie causes harm to other people on her platform. I don't think it's okay. And the fact that she's had these lawsuits, regardless of anything, she has accused people recently, Dre McCray, of murdering her husband, who is still alive. That is not okay with me. That's unacceptable. And it goes against so much on the platform. Like, imagine if she did that to you or to one of your family members. How would you feel? Those children of Dre McCrae's and Marvon McCrae's are going to see that one day.
You'll notice I'm not there to defend KJP. So like, it's interesting. Like, the chat says that I am, and that, you know, like that's what I'm there for. But actually, there's a lot that I just sort of grant or let go. So, if somebody is expressing, hang on, let me see what timestamp this is. This is 1:14:47. I'm going to refresh real quick. It does this thing with live chat sometimes when I play it back. I might be missing the live chat. I was going to show the live chat because they're pretty mean throughout it. So why not show the people that love KJP so much and what they're up to?
That's unacceptable, and it goes.
Let me see if it'll do it. Default view. Default. Oh, why does it do this? Okay, let me unshare and I'll reshare real quick. I'm gonna just. Where am I? 1:14. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But that chat was salty as hell and very insulting. There were some good points made in that chat also, and I was going to keep it up, but since it's being wonky, we'll go big. So sorry about that.
Against so much on the platform. Like, imagine if she did that to you or to one of your family members. How would you feel? Those children of Dre McCrae's and Marvon McCrae's are going to see that one day. Is that acceptable to you?
Well, I don't think people should speculate on that sort of thing. I think Katie. I actually think that there's a much of the true crime area that is trauma vultures, basically. Molly Golightly, Justin. Those guys are gross to me. I think KJP is dug in areas where she should not have dug. I think that, you know, I'm willing to grant a lot there. I don't care to defend that. He deserves criticism. I just think the amount that she's covered is like excessive. Like, I wonder why you don't rotate through like Molly Golightly. She's worth covering.
I've looked at Molly, but here's the thing. I don't care about this anymore. Like, you don't see me around. Erin was live. I come on if she's live every now and then. I don't like seeing the bullying in the chat. It's not okay. I don't do it. You might have heard all these narratives about me, all these lies, all these everything. I don't do probably 99.9% of the shit that I have been accused of. I don't hate Katie. I dislike her ways. She's not just done it to Dre McCrae. She did it to Todd Chrisley. She did it to Toddy Westbrook. She's done it to 7M. I just posted a video of her accusing them of murdering people, or basically saying that.
So I'm just letting her get it all out. Like, there's nothing really that I care to challenge. There are some things that I might disagree with or whatever, but that's not where I want to argue. And so, like, for the sake of time, it's sort of like either passive, just let it go, or grant it. For the sake of time, just move on and get through it. And so that's what I was doing there. How do I keep my composure? What I do is I self-regulate my emotions, and I can do that for some time in stressful situations. I'm actually really good at it. And then I'll freak out in real life over mundane things, but that's a whole nother side thing. But what I do is I decide that people don't deserve to get me all riled up. I don't deserve that. They don't need that from me. And what I do is I decide that my ego, so when people are insulting my ego and trash talking me in chat and stuff like that, and EKC's getting all riled up, my ego is going to go in a box where they can't reach it. And what I decide to do is my feelings of getting hurt or getting escalated or getting really passionate, I'm going to put that in a box too, so they don't get it. I actually visualize this in my head. And then what I decide to do is go, I will process my emotions when I want to process them or whatever, but like I don't have to escalate with you. So with somebody like Tina, who's very passionate, I think she's very used to using her passion and her anger and, dare I say, rage. And she's like, oh, I'm just so, this is what I feel, and I know that I'm right, and I'm right. And I think she's used to bulldozing other women who go, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with all this escalation. And their heart rate goes up and their blood pressure goes up. And even my blood pressure went up there. And you can kind of start to feel yourself escalating along with her. And it's not like she's swearing at you. It's just that her sheer escalation and just vibe is just, oh. So what I try to do is I just visualize, like, you aren't going to shake this up. Like, sorry, and I mindfully do that, and I can self-regulate down. Now I wish it would work for all things, but it works for these.
She doesn't have proof of it yet, but she believes that they're capable of running people off the road, and, her life is in danger and other people's lives are in danger. That's crazy to me. So I've criticized her. I've tried to hold her accountable to get her to see that the way that she goes about things, when you do and accuse people of stuff, she accused Aaron and I of having something to do with manufacturing child CP. I won't say it even out loud. Like, I'm so
disgusted. She named you guys particularly?
Yes, she did, with no evidence, none, no evidence. How would you feel if somebody accused you of that with no evidence, and then you
I'd be really upset. I'd be so upset about that. I would not allow the person that actually did the CP in my live chat going forward. And I wouldn't downplay the CP either. That would be really upsetting.
Yeah, but who's done that?
Yeah,
I haven't let anybody in my live chat. I haven't done a live chat.
So Tina is like painting the picture of how horrific it is to get fingered for CP, which I agree. I think I would be tremendously disturbed and upset and triggered by that, being innocent and being accused of something that's a horrific crime. And I that I understand. I think a lot of folks like KJP were like, who would do something like this bad? Who hates me this much? And Tina hates her an awful lot. I mean, you can see the hate vibes, like they're kind of spilling everywhere. So, maybe fingers got pointed. People are trying to figure out who's doing this stuff. It's awful. And this is the mayhem that somebody evil like that will cause, and they'll enjoy it. It's horrible. So in sincereness, yes, it would be horrible. But also, I sincerely think that, like, it says something about EKC to allow Nat into her chat afterwards. It's just unfathomable to me. Like, it's just bizarre. And she might be shocked, and look at that face. She might be shocked that I dare say that, but it's true. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Really,
on Twitter.
Really? I didn't fucking downplay a thing. I was sharing.
You said it wasn't that bad.
I didn't say it wasn't that bad. What I did in a live stream of mine is I shared what someone had said to me. I shared a conversation. That's all.
About her own experience. Let me point that out.
Yes, about my own personal experience, how I described it to this retired attorney, and he was talking to me about it, and I shared the conversation. That's all I fucking did.
So when you're just talking to a random attorney, a lot of attorneys will tell you what kind of field they're in. They might not be in criminal law or anything like that, so they might not even be able to weigh into things quite as well as others. So it's relevant for the question I ask.
And I even said, I can't talk or attest to what anyone else received because I haven't seen that. I'm only talking about what I received.
What kind of attorney was it? Was it a criminal attorney or a civil attorney or probate?
It was a federal attorney.
Why does...
I don't believe you. That's my I don't believe you face. I think like she's lying. I think we caught her in a lie. It's the vibe I get. Obviously, it's like my word and vibes against what she's displaying, but I call a lie. I feel it's a lie.
Does that matter? The point is, she wasn't talking about anybody else's. She wasn't talking about anybody else's experience except for her own. You can't attest to something that you never saw. Right? I would hope that nobody but an attorney or a law enforcement person ever saw anything that anybody else got.
kind of think that Tina lies less than EKC. Like, I actually feel at this point, if I was to choose which one's more truthier, it would be Tina. Like, as outrageous and rah as Tina is, and I think also dishonest in a lot of ways. Like, there's little things like with EKC that just flag me as, oof, this isn't ringing true to me.
Right?
And
Like,
I didn't
who
show,
would
and mind
show
you,
that
I
or
didn't,
share that with anybody. Aaron didn't.
yeah, I didn't show it to the attorney either. I explained to him
Well, yeah, then you would be
what
in
it looked
possession,
like.
right? You
Well,
can't do that.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, providing
This is
that's what it
her
was.
own
Yeah.
children.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I explained to him exactly like how it was orchestrated, like whatever, like how it looks like just someone took a picture, like cut out a picture of my kid's head and put it on another picture.
I don't want to know the details.
Whatever.
I think it's all horrific, no matter how it's done. It's
I didn't say
horrible.
I didn't say it
Yeah.
wasn't. And neither
Yeah.
did the attorney. The attorney didn't say it wasn't horrific. No one said it wasn't horrific. I'm talking about when it comes to the law. And I'm telling what the attorney told me in regard to the law. That's it. In regard to what I got. But you don't want to hear that though.
Only
You don't
Aaron.
want to fucking hear that though. Because I've said this over and over again, but you don't want to fucking hear it because it doesn't align with your narrative. Okay. Because you want to keep running the story or paying me.
What is my narrative? Like, that's one of the things that they kept kind of doing is like your story, your narrative. They were never able to repeat what I actually thought. Like, you'll see that people took it as condescension that I was repeating what later Tina's going to express as her view. And I wrote it down, and I just wrote kind of like little cliff notes of it. And I said, tell me if like I'm understanding you right. But they have yet to ask or repeat anything that like I am saying, like, tell me if I'm understanding you right. And that's the principle of charity. It's the principle of charity that Steve doesn't teach at all. The principle of charity is this idea of giving the best argument or understanding of what somebody's expressing back to you, making sure that you understand it. And they don't do that here. They don't do it at all. Throughout the whole hangout, they don't do that. They say that there's a narrative, but they don't express what it is. They don't let me express my narrative. Not really. And also, the only person that is running narrative really are these two. Like they have a whole story and construct that they tell. And really, I have a perception. I have a perception, and I have some data on how problematic the Minnesota police are, and I have how people generally experience in their stories, how they experience going through something like this, and how bad it is. And I'm coming from that perspective, and then to have like somebody take that report and weaponize it like that because they're mad because they decided they want to defend a cop. To show me a situation where EKC has ever defended a cop. Is there a situation, my face is narrative, is there a situation where EKC has defended a cop before or after this? Because people accuse cops every day of things. Has anyone accused a cop of something else, blasted them on social media, and she's defended them? Or is it just different? Is it just different because it's KJP?
Me in this bad light for whatever reason. Like, I don't even know what the fuck your problem is with me, but whatever. Okay. So, truth be damned, though, right?
Let's talk about, Aaron, can I really quick?
Well, I certainly hope so, Anon, because I would say that the best thing to do would be go to the cops and file a police report. If it was my kids, I'd want them in jail. Like, I certainly hope so. But she's never really said.
Talk with HolySpackle about. I want to talk about.
Talk about
the essay report. I want to talk about that really quick.
Okay.
Because I want to give my perspective.
I'm going to put
If I mute, it's because I still have bronchitis. 1 second.
I'm going to put me on mute for a second. I'm going to just run inside and grab something real quick, and I'll be right
Okay,
out. I can still
perfect.
listen, though. I can still listen.
Perfect. Okay, so as far as the essay report, right? Take the report out of it. The point was that Katie accused. Did you see the video where Katie accused the police officer of doing certain things, of yelling at her and telling her she was a liar and all that? Did you watch those videos?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So this police officer that works for this police department, she blasted the department, she blasted the officer all over social media to almost 200,000 subs, right? Other women or anybody that is violated in that way, and if they had seen that, might have taken it that they couldn't trust the police department, might have taken it that they couldn't report the crime, right? This officer did not do, it was proven that he did not do what she claimed he did. So she went after an innocent man.
So generally speaking, the whole experience from what people are expressing is so bad that even if you have a cop that does their job the way that they're supposed to and treats you as well as they can still come out of that feeling traumatized, feeling unbelieved, feeling mistreated, and have all sorts of feelings about it. Now, he could also have mistreated her. As she says, he could have berated her and said, how many drinks did you have? There's a law on the books that recently, I think, just finally got struck down. But there was a law on the books in Minnesota that pretty much made it impossible to prosecute date rape if you've had a drink. If you've had a drink or you've passed out or you've had a couple drinks and you are, under the influence, they're just going to like assume that you consent. Like, it's the most fucked up law ever to like pretend like Minnesota doesn't have messed up laws and messed up cops is a problem, because they do. They have. It is a problem. So no, I don't assume the innocence of the cop because they have so much problems. And then even if he was, I know that the experience itself is traumatizing. Even if he follows the books, there's something in their system that they should fix.
And she pushed a narrative about him that could hurt him, not only hurt him in his job, could hurt him in his life, and could hurt other victims who would be too scared to come forward if something happened because they believed what she said. Now, the department did an investigation because of all of this, because of Aaron's stream. Katie went to them and they ended up doing an investigation, and the detective was cleared of it. Do you think that him being cleared,
I'm writing a flow chart right there,
in his life, and might have made a difference in victims' lives who might have been too scared to come to that police department because they heard the story from Katie Joy?
So the picture that she's painting is that because Katie Joy said that I had this horrible experience with the interviewer and I was mistreated so badly and nobody took me seriously, nobody listened to my story, I'm going to share my horrific experience, and it was, very traumatizing. And Tina says that's bad because it's going to create bad faith with the system and the cops, and it's going to harm victims in the long run because victims are not going to be able to trust their advocates. This is the narrative, and it is a narrative that Tina runs with. And it's the one that EKC tells, and sometimes I think it's the one that Tina wrote. Can you repeat your last sentence? It was a question, and I just want to make sure I'm charitable and understand it. So she said a question. Let me go back and see if I can listen to it again.
because of Aaron's stream, Katie went to them and they ended up doing an investigation and the detective was cleared of it. Do you think that him being cleared made a difference in his life and might?
Actually, I'm not impressed by internal investigations by cops on a whole. So it doesn't really rattle me or impress me either way.
Might have made a difference in victims' lives who might have been too scared to come to that police department because they heard the story from Katie Joy.
So it's hard to answer questions the way she couches them because you have to accept the back of it. So it's sort of a Trojan horse. So I have to accept this reasoning of like, you know, there's this good cop and there's this vindictive Amber Heard type. And I have to accept that he has been victimized and everything's wrong that's been said and that he is just innocent. And I have to accept that. And then I have to answer yes or no to this other question. And it's called a Trojan horse. It's you have to agree with all these previous assumptions, all these previous assertions, and then answer the question. And it's not really an honest way to have the conversation. So I think I skipped over it because my brain was just like, this is just sticky. Can you repeat your last sentence? It was a question, and I just want to make sure I'm charitable and understand it.
Oh my God, I'm not going to remember it. You guys in the chat, what did I just say?
Well, I can repeat what's leading up to
like
it.
That.
So you're basically, let me know. You can stop me if you think I'm uncharitable to you. If you think I'm going to rephrase as active listening what you're telling me, and you let me know if I'm getting it wrong.
Okay.
And if I act all Cali style casual, it's because I'm that way. Sorry. So Katie is upset. She's blasting the police department and she's blasting this particular police officer because she feels that she's been violated in some way, that she's had a horrible experience, you know, that she's been mistreated, etc. And if I'm understanding your logic, the reason why this had to be investigated was because it causes distrust of both police officers, the cop that actually handled her interview, and then also of the system and the police department. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
I want to know really quick. Can I ask a question really quick?
Yes, please.
So you saw the videos that she...
So this was a trip. I was trying not to be distracted by this, but EKC starts manically brushing her hair in the background, like, and I'm like, dude, like your hair's gonna get torn out by the roots. But I was like, don't pay attention, don't look.
She did about it. Did you see all her tweets, all her posts that she did about it?
So I am a little ADHD. So what I do is I gather a lot of information, and that hard drive that was linked to me by EKC, I did go through it and read. So I probably read all the tweets at one point.
Okay.
Can I recall all of them verbatim or anything like that? No, but they're fiery. They're fiery.
I just wanted to know if you had the full picture, right? I wanted you and everybody else in the chat to know. I'm trying to like...
I think I do. Because at the time when I first looked into this, I actually wanted to understand why Aaron would do that. You know, good point. Good point. Ron G. It could be self-soothing because we groom when we're nervous, right? So you'll see my nervousness in this. I'm clicking my pen a lot, and so I'm putting my nervous energy in a direction, and so that's in my pen. I'm fidgeting. But with her, it's she's violently combing her hair. But also, I mean, I obviously have my own bias. It's clear. I think we can all agree that we, as human beings, do not have freedom from bias and freedom from our gut instinct and our own perceptions. So I obviously have my own bias to deal with, but my understanding is that because Katie Joy was blasting the cops and possibly, in your opinion, yeah, that's one of the points I try to make, Stacy. Stacy says, and honestly, even if the cop was cleared of wrongdoing, doesn't negate how KJ would have felt. Feelings don't usually care about procedure. The procedure could have been cold and uncaring. It could have been very uncompassionate, and you could have done everything right and hit all the checklists, and still you could come out feeling a certain way. Absolutely. Maybe an innocent one.
Accusing him of crimes, basically.
Of mishandling her case and being dismissive and maybe even rude. She has a Google Drive of everything Katie's ever said. It is in the long term, her telling that story and that perception that you believe is untrue is hurting other victims, because they are going to have a built-in distrust of police officers and a bad system built in place, and particularly that police department. Am I
That
wrong?
absolutely can handle, but if you take it a step further, okay, and you think about the things that Katie said.
That's what I'm concerned about too. And it's, I know that Steve says this is, well, he doesn't say concern. The real term is concern trolling. I've just got a concern. But Steve keeps saying I'm sea lioning, which is not quite the same. But I think what he means to say is I'm concern trolling. But actually, as much as I can lulls at people, I usually point things out for a point of things. And I really sincerely believe that this is some really fucked up shit. And so much so that even myself, like, I really debated about, should I address this? Because I don't want to hurt KJP. But it's been drug out so much, so often from these clowns that I decided, well, I guess I will address it. But like there's a moral conundrum. Every time like you challenge her on it, she just goes, well, I'm just going to hurt her some more. And you're re-victimizing victims. And really, she's the one that's re-victimizing the victim. And so there's a moral conundrum that you run into about these things. Like, do you address it or do you not? And I chose to. And I know that some people feel some sort of way about that. And, you know, I've had some feedback about that. Like, I shouldn't have. So yeah, it's a big mess. So does EKC and Tina do this to every woman who claims SA and criticizes the police, how they handle this case? Thankfully, so far, no. But the fear is that this is sort of a precedent. Like just because you have a feeling about like something that's so negative and such a bad experience, and you express this bad experience, it gives them a right to go vigilante justice and contact the police and make an ordeal on YouTube and make it a scene. And it's horrific. And I think that is a lot of my motivation, is that I listened. Sorry. We're not under attack. We're not under attack. Tranquilo. Tranquilo. Hey. Tranquilo. Sally. Pardon me. Sally dog thinks we're under attack. Just kidding. She's a good watchdog. Oh, she has to get it out. Oh, I have one more thing to say. Okay, are we done? Are we done? Okay. Someone walked by with a cart that was making a lot of noise, and so she's like, oh my gosh, the joys of apartment living. Oh, okay, so I don't even know what I was saying. I got so distracted. What did I last say? I don't even know. See, this is what happens when I get side quested. I'm gonna look at chat while maybe y'all can jog my memory. Yeah, how many people are going to feel so comfy going forwards? Yeah, that's, I think, the point. Like, right? Oh, my memory got jogged. I sat listening to several women over time express how they felt about this. People sometimes were in tears. People sometimes shared their own stories. And I sat and listened to it. And I have to say, like, I'm shocked that another woman would want to do this to somebody. I just am. And I'm not one of those believe all women people. That's not a phrase I say. I understand that there's this rare occasion where some people make shit up. There's the rare Amber Heard. It's actually not that common. But I also know how worrisome and how unsafe it's made a lot of people feel. Like it's and I think I even brought that up once on Twitter, if I recall, and I was told I was ridiculous. Like they would never do it to anybody else. And it's like, it was like confirmation. It's just because it's KJP. Apparently it's okay. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know.
She basically made it seem as if the man that she accused, now I don't know if he did it. I don't know if he's guilty or innocent. I don't care. She made it seem as if his family was a very powerful family in the
She streamed on Little Red's channel and on
community, and that they had the police in their pocket, if you will. Now, she made a lot of claims.
I don't think it's a shocking story or claim to say that everybody knows each other in a good old boy town, in a small town, and that people would defend, a fellow cop or defend somebody because they knew somebody. Like that's not too unusual. We see it every day. Like we see that in almost every abuse. Like if you've ever experienced something horrific like this, it's very common for people to not believe you, no matter who you are. Like if it involves somebody they care about. So like if it's Coach Brown and Coach Brown did something to one of the football players and everybody else had a good experience except for the football player who was molested. And if the football player has the nerve to go out there and say, hey, this happened to me, do you know how many people stick up for Coach Brown? Fellow faculty members, the family, the team players, they all stick up for Coach Brown, and they say, Coach Brown never would do that. Never would do that. He's a caring, honorable, great man. He's helped me so much. And they will tell the victim, if they dare come out publicly, that what they said is untrue. How about church? How many times do we hear church stories? Oh, well, there was an elder in the Jehovah's Witness church, and he taught me piano lessons. And this is another story. This is not my story. This is another story that I watched on YouTube, actually, somebody telling their story. And they didn't name names, so you don't need to pull a report. But they said that, my piano teacher happened to be an elder in the Jehovah's Witness church, and I would take lessons from him. And because, they were long lessons in piano and stuff like that, oftentimes, my parents would just drop me off and I would be alone with him. And it was because he was so respected and he was a spiritual elder. Nobody would ever question him. And then she was sexually molested by this man. And then when she came forward, the Jehovah's Witnesses were like, well, I'll just say Elder White would never do such a thing. He's a spiritual man, a godly man. And so we're going to have to do an internal investigation, because at that time, and there's a big scandal, you can look it up in the Jehovah's Witnesses. At that time, they wouldn't go to the cops. They would handle it in sight. And so similarly to maybe KJP in this way, or a lot of folks in the religious debate community, like I have a vested interest in cults, a vested interest in religious abuse, things like that. And I just find it fascinating how these things are handled and how they're mishandled. And then when they finally break, how people react to them. And so I just kind of always pay attention to these sort of things. And in this case, they did an internal investigation because Matthew 18, go to your elder in private, or the person that harmed you in private. And then if that doesn't work, you go to the church, and you basically handle it all in house. And so that's what they did. What they do is they make your victim, or your victim, I'm speaking here, they make the victim, in this case a kid, confront an adult victim with other elders as a group. Like can you imagine? And obviously it doesn't fare well. And then they find out that nothing was wrong, everything's fine. It was just, because the kid's gonna fold. And it's abuse. It's abusive. And so, like, I'm not saying, like, what I guess I'm trying to say is that it's not uncommon for everybody to side with the cop. And in a small town like that, I would assume that it would feel awful. It would feel awful. If you take KJP out of the story, you insert any other person. We'll say her name is Emily, and you put Emily from a small town in that situation. It's a believable story. It is. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not here to judge the truthiness of it necessarily, but I am to defend. I want to defend the ability to tell your story and say, I felt this certain sort of way, without somebody having to pull the R report and disperse it on the internet and then also make videos about it. Like, it's just bizarre to me.
Basically, right? She wrote the story. So if you just take a couple pieces here and there, it probably doesn't look as bad. But if you put them all together, the police officer could have lost his job. He's been I don't remember how long he had worked for the police department. It has been a career. Like, he has been a public servant. So he could have lost his job. Like, his family could have been affected. He could have lost everything. It just goes so deep. And then if you think about how Katie runs her, YouTube, and the links that she goes to others and does the investigations of others.
Exiled says, hey, Tina, did you ever think about the argument that says victims were horrified that somehow someone's R report ended up on YouTube for spite?
It's almost like it's okay for me, but not for thee. She's done way worse than.
I want to point out a couple things. It's okay for thee, but not for me. You're victimizing victims. These are all things that Cheshire and Manya repeated on repeat. Do you think the sister wives share the same mantras? I think so.
Aaron talking about this, I believe this should have been talked about. I don't know that I would have done it the way it was done, but she needed to be called to task. She doesn't like criticism, period. It's okay for her, but it's not okay for anybody else. And real life people can pay the price of it. That's my whole point.
So I have a question.
Went to jail.
Go ahead.
Went to jail over her CP claims. Aaron could have went to jail. We could have went to jail.
Do you think the justice system is that bad that they're not going to be able to get down to the bottom of who's actually distributing that and creating that?
Did they get down to it? Did the FBI get down to it?
Well, they're working on it. They have.
It's taken a long time, right?
Yeah,
we could have ended up in jail while all this time.
Yeah, except it's an international investigation and it's a cybercrime, and that combination can make it really sticky and take a really long time. I'm a big fan of staying out of that, letting them do their work. If something happens to you like that, report it to the police. 100% report it to the police. Always report it to the police. Always.
And what about your TRO there, Tina?
Yeah, my rights were already taken away from me. I was already silenced.
So KJP landed a TRO on Tina. Now it looks like it got rescinded. And I pick my battles. at that time, that was not where I wanted to argue. And so like, grant the story, so to speak, the story she's telling, overstep the bunny trail, I guess it would lead to. But since I have the freedom to go on the bunny trail now, I would say this, that I don't think TROs drop from the heavens, Tina. I think you were TRO'd for a reason. And while I don't think KJP is an angel, just after all this, I can see why you would be TRO'd. I'm just saying.
I didn't have anything to do with it.
Why were you silent
And
again?
Because I had a TRO put on me by Katie Joy.
How long was that, and when did it lift?
It didn't lift. She dropped it. Katie dropped
She
it.
dropped it. She
Yes.
claims now that she dropped it because I made a deal with her. I didn't make a deal. She offered me a 10-year NDA, and I said, fuck you. No, I'd rather go to court, have my day in court, because I know I'm innocent of everything she's claimed I've done. But why would she drop it? If she was scared for her and her family, why would she drop it?
So I have a question about... I didn't answer that question. If she was scared, why would she drop it? Well, I think part of the reason why I kind of ignored the question was because I'm not an oracle in Katie's mind. Like, woo, why did you drop it? But I could speculate, I guess. One is, you can be scared and afraid, but you might be fighting a bigger monster out there. And on the scale of monsters, Tina's a lot smaller than that other one that's a psychopath that was internationally investigated. Like I'd say, like on the threat meter, Tina's lower. So if she's already dealing with a legal issue and she's already dealing with that weirdo running around doing psycho things to everybody, like, yeah, there are other things to fight. Like, people have limited resources, limited money, limited time. So I don't know. I'm just speculating. I don't know. I am not a KJP whisperer. I'm not in her camp. But if I was to speculate, I would say that similarly to a lot of things, you're not collectible. You're not worth a lot of, to sue, most likely. And you're not worth a ton of effort. Like, it should just probably let it go. That's my guess. I could be wrong. Who knows? But you're asking me to speculate on somebody that I don't even really talk to. So about the police report thing. So you believe that she would hurt future victims because they would be afraid of the police department? Because they're mishandling, mistreating rape victims, not taking them seriously.
Can I add something to this? Can I add something to this?
No, EKG. Well, that's what I had actually the other day. EKC. That's. Oh my God, her mouth. No. I actually prefer talking to Tina. Okay, go ahead.
Time on Katie's Facebook page, she was posting about this doll at the time. This is, in fact, you can see the post and that the link I shared. There were people local to her commenting, believing her story. Her mom even commented. So this showed absolute promise of spreading throughout her local community there and the community in which this department serves.
So because like people in the community were responding and showing promise of it spreading throughout the community, therefore she had to insert herself, because small towns would never circle around the honor of Cop Anderson, because he's Mr. Anderson. He's always protected and served. If you see a bot, please ban it. Small towns never circle around public figures or, coaches or priests or anything like that, like never, so, there was a risk of some sort of confrontation, between, everybody in the small town working it out. And so, EKC, being the benevolent fighter of women's rights that she is, decided she should insert herself. I mean, it makes perfect sense, right?
She's in a very small community, as she has said.
So, okay. So I have a couple questions. One is sort of a thought experiment. What's my IQ? My IQ's tested at 140. But after COVID, I bet it's probably dropped 5 points or more. Experiment. Let's say, Tina, you go in for surgery and you have a doctor that you believe messed up. And you tell people on social media, this doctor messed up. This is my experience. This is my truth. This is my experience of what happened. This doctor didn't listen to me before the pre-op. This doctor mistreated me. They messed up. I don't think my case was handled very well, blah, blah, blah. Do you think that could ruin a doctor's life?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So my doctor analogy is really just to take the emotion out of the argument, because people usually feel less emotional about a fuck up surgeon than they do about something that involves a report regarding R. So what I try to do is move it to a different situation that elicits less emotion on purpose. And I actually think that in a way, it's not a dishonest thing to do. It's actually doing the opposite of what you would assume I would do. If anything, I usually would elicit emotion. I'm a rhetoric person. Like I thrive on rhetoric. But in this case, I was like, let's look at it without emotion. And so that's why I went with the surgeon analogy. It was like, how would you feel if your shit got out there? So let's say you criticize a surgeon and you believe that they effed up your surgery, and you tell your story. And somebody decides, well, I don't like, maybe they're defenders, like maybe their dad was a doctor or something, and they feel like they need to, defend the surgeon. So then somehow they get a hold of your medical reports and put it on blast and discuss it on live. Well, there's a reason why we have laws against that. It can affect your career. It can affect your, like how people perceive you. It's your own privacy, right? It's a violation. And so we feel a certain kind of way about these things, you can act like you don't care. Like I got my gallbladder out, whoop-de-doo, but maybe there's some things that people do care about and they don't want out there. And so similarly, I was trying to take the extreme emotion out of it and still say, like, there's expected privacy when you go through and come through with the report. So even if you're, as a victim, kind of explaining your story and your experience, at the same time, you don't expect people to grab the report and then put it on blast and share it around and discuss it and, things like that. So I don't think it's a wrong analogy. Somebody was saying it's a non sequitur. Somebody said it was it wasn't relevant. I think it was relevant. I was attempting to parallel what was happening with something that was less emotional. What if it was true?
What if it was true? What if it was true? But what if it
let's make this comparison, though, an actual comparison. You're not just saying, hey, that he wasn't nice to me. Okay, by comparison, you would be saying that the doctor refused to do his job. The doctor refused to do the surgery. The doctor said that.
No shit. Comparison as he fucked up the surgery. That's the comparison.
The patient deserved the ailment.
He did the surgery. He messed it up. He did the surgery. He did the points.
Then the doctor would be saying, if you want to make this comparison accurate, the doctor would be saying, well, yeah, we know what you deserve. It's your fault.
Yeah, the sheer fact that Roadhog ended up with it, and not too long after hanging out with Steve, by the way.
That I messed up. It's you deserved it. It's because you did X, Y, and Z that happened. Okay, that would be a more accurate comparison, not just, oh, the doctor wasn't nice to you, or the doctor doesn't believe he messed up, or whatever. And this isn't about whether or not the detective messed up. So again,
so Katie, it is.
This would be no, it's not. No, Katie is accusing this detective of purposely, of being corrupt, of being paid off, or whatever, of being
If we kind of grant that, of like, this cop's corrupt and paid off, people have a lot of feelings about a lot of things. Like, they'll move and escalate from the surgeon fucked up the surgery to the entire corruption of the hospital, to the corruption of the insurance company, to the corruption of like how things are perceived around them. Like people emote a lot when they're really riled up and upset. I don't know why EKC is so outraged and shocked by that. I'm not. Cops are represented. They have a union. They have representation. They're very well protected within the force. They don't really need EKC to defend them, so it's kind of ridiculous. In the live chat, Lucy writes in the EKC live chat, she writes, so maybe let the community deal with it instead of doing greater harm by or doing the greater harm of dissecting our reports with no understanding of these investigations on the whole internet. I'm amazed that Lucy got the comment because some of the comments disappeared. Every CJ comment disappeared.
Swayed by the power, the prestige, the influence of this man's family, the person that she was accusing. So this wouldn't be just a case of the doctor screwing up. This would be the case of the doctor refusing to do the job, going in there for the surgery to say, no.
He did the job. He did the report. But so I think actually it parallels again. The surgeon does the surgery, but maybe F's it up. But he does like a checkbox, like this is the things I'm going to do, but maybe messes up. Similarly, you could take a report and treat somebody awfully, but like on paper and stuff, you've done it, but like there could be expressions and eyebrow raising and body language. There could be tone. There's all sorts of things, and people can feel all sorts of ways about that. We don't know the attitude to which he did it. You're looking at how he filled in the checkpoints.
You're right. He did his job, but Katie was accusing him of not doing the job. And that's the point. And
I think it's a very common experience for people that have experienced SA or R to be very jostled and upset. And even if you are a kind cop, you can still feel like it's cold and callous and cruel. And you could have a whole lot of feelings about that. So let's say Katie's wrong.
No, but let's
say Katie's wrong and he's cold and he's callous and crude and he's yelling at me, but he's not actually yelling. So I misspoke there. I was trying to say let's just for the thought say that he's doing his job, but KJP's experiencing her emotions and perceptions differently than what he's trained to do. And I think where I was going with that is that you can be trained to do the procedure right and still mishandle the situation. Like there's actually talks about how the way they interview is incorrect. For instance, for a while, it was if there was some sort of variance in your story as a trauma victim, it meant that it wasn't true. And studies have shown, and I'm not trying to be like studies have shown, like Sex and the City style, but if you look it up, people who experience trauma in the situation, especially sexual trauma, do experience things like depersonalization. And so you'll hear victims say, I want to be out of my body anywhere but here. And so what happens is they get sort of a stunned feeling of, similarly to like as if you were drugged or if you were drunk and you aren't quite in your body and you're outside. And so what happens is you're going to maybe remember things out of order, or you're going to forget things and remember them later. And there's all sorts of weird things that it can happen in that situation. And so I think what I was trying to work towards is that there's a decent amount of variance in trauma victims in their story, and then how the police have notoriously handled it. They've gone back and gone, oh, maybe we've been mishandling how we do this. And so, yeah, I think you can feel a whole lot of ways about something that is in the system. I think a cop could be trained to do something in one way and still be destructive and still do his quote unquote job and still be destructive. I think it's completely possible. So even if I grant like that he wasn't intentionally horrible, it's very possible the whole experience could have still been horrible. Is it still okay to be like, Katie, I think you're a liar, so I'm going to pull your R report?
He wasn't just being callous and cold. According to Katie, he was berating her. He was blaming her. He was saying that she was a liar. He was saying that there's no way that this man could have done this because he comes from a good family with good prestige. He wouldn't be a part of something like that. So this isn't just him being callous and cold, like I'm sure many law enforcement officials are. This was about him being corrupt and refusing to do the job and blaming the victim and berating the victim, according to Katie. There's a big difference there.
And if that was the case, if it really was the case, Katie would have filed a report against him. We know Katie is very capable of going after people with the law. She would have done a report against him, even whatever. Why did she feel the need to disparage this man and his career on social media? Why was it necessary? I mean, the same thing.
If we were charitable to KJP, it might be to warn other people. To maybe change the system, to maybe tell her story. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why.
Happened to the family, the man's family. She went after them and their businesses.
Going after a person's family is the thing on the table. I think that would be vindictive, but I also think that typically people get angry at people who protect people. It's a perception thing. I'm not defending it, but I can see how something like that could happen with some folks.
Like, she seriously...
It doesn't necessarily mean, again, the whole experience in the beginning is untrue. So they like to take the ball and put it at the point of where it's like years later. And I'm keep dragging the ball kind of backwards. And so I think we're arguing at different points constantly.
Cause these people harm. She said that they were behind it. It was their fault. Don't go to their businesses. She put their names out there, their business names out there.
Lucy says in EKC's chat, with the way SA victims are treated as a whole, that is so reckless. Again, there's no way you could have proven her wrong anyway.
She went to an extent that didn't have to happen.
And then when in regard to the police department, in one of her videos, she was laughing at the end, saying how I tagged them on Twitter. And then she starts laughing about it.
Well, I mean, at least she's front punching them, EKC. Like, I don't know what to say there.
I mean, funny.
You let them know. Is it better not to tag them? I mean, I don't know if you're going to talk smack,
File a report. Why not file a report? If you were right and there's a video of the thing and what you were saying is correct, file a report and get the officer fired. And
so Tina,
department.
Do you know how hard it is to get an officer fired? Have you not watched the news? Have you not talked to other people with experiences with police officers that went sour? Have you not talked to anybody that's experienced SA and how to go through this? I'm just shocked. Like, it's almost like you don't know what everybody else seems to know. Tina and EKC, do you think that there's corruption in the police force?
Oh, for the love.
So Steve later says that's a it's like a hasty generalization, or it's like it's like a red herring. It's irrelevant. It's like saying, do you think the Ukraine war is bad? The reason why I said it that way was, do you think there's corruption in the police force, is to say, like, do we by default trust the police? Do we not think that there's problems with the police, either with violence or how they handle SA, how they just generally are overly confrontive, how they search vehicles? I mean, like there's a whole lot of things that I could point to where, like, do not think it's a problem. And whenever they investigate, they're like, oh, there's no wrongdoing, everything was fine, like they. So yeah, it's a general question, and it's just to say, like, it's trying to get the feel of, like, how much do you defend cops, EKC? Because the first time I've ever seen you defend a cop was in this incident, just because it was KJP. So like, is this like a issue that you point out? Because I think I remember you pointing out that there is corruption in the police force. So why is this cop particularly, like, you know, an honorable man, like, just by default? You don't know the guy.
Of God.
Just in general, do you think
What does that have to do with anything?
Do you think there's like a blue line where people kind of like?
In general,
I think that the police
general.
force is held more accountable today than they were.
Yeah, it's getting better.
You know, even 2 years ago.
It's getting better,
I
Tina.
think-
But
I don't think there's.
this
any
was
room for them to
2007,
fuck up
Tina.
anymore.
2007 when this
Language.
happened.
Well,
they
I-
had quite
I
a
think-
backlog of our reports and cases that were not gone through. Minnesota's known to have
They weren't
some
tested.
problems.
They weren't tested. And Katie's wasn't one of those in backlog. Hers wasn't going to be tested.
Hers was
because-
before that, before they even discovered.
No, hers wouldn't have been
that
tested. And it's
2007?
why hers wouldn't have been tested. And in fact, with
So I was bringing up the test thing here, and I think I can pull it up real quick. Hang on. And you could say, oh, it's irrelevant for this case because. One second here. Give me 1 second. It's pulling up other things. Done. Give me 1 second. So let's stop the share screen for a second and then share this share screen 1 second. Let's see. So many screens. Minnesota police to test backlog of 1,700 R kits spanning 30 years. 30 years. This case that they're discussing here is 2007. It's 2022 right now. But there was an audit done in 2015. And the reason why this is relevant is not because, like, in this particular instance, both parties didn't say that they didn't have relations, so they didn't bother to test, right? But what I was doing was I was trying to paint a picture of the mishandling of things like this from the Minnesota police, and how it is a problem on that state. And so it's not that it is like the testing is relevant per se to the case. It's that the overall attitude of how to handle victims is fucking missing the mark and is a problem. I was using that as a way to point out one of the many problems in that state. There's another one. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see here. You can look up the intoxication loophole law. Remember, KJP said she had a couple drinks. Well, heaven forbid if you are ever on a date and you are AR'd in the state of Minnesota, because they have problems. So you can look up the Minnesota intoxication loophole law that they just closed the loop on 2021. And if you had consumed drugs or alcohol, they couldn't really determine whether or not you gave consent or not. So automatically it would fall against the victim. Well, you shouldn't have been drinking. So imagine if you were confronted with, it's asking me to subscribe. Do you want to subscribe? No, not really today. imagine if you are meeting with these people that have the same laws in place, the same general attitudes, the same procedures that seem to be failing victims, and you have a very seasoned cop, an older cop. He retired pretty quickly after that case. So he's been in it for a while. He probably has some old school views. You might feel a certain way after going through that. I don't know. I can imagine, right? Like, and if I put together the information I know about Minnesota being problematic with the story, yeah, I think you could feel a whole lot of ways about the person that did the interview. Even if he was following the checklist, even if he was doing, according to them, the job that he was required to do, there's a very good chance that it's still mishandled because they have a habit of mishandling it. And that's kind of the picture I was trying to paint, is like, Minnesota's not doing too well on this. It's known to be a problem.
They readdressed her case or whatever, and they still didn't see a need to test it because there was no dispute whether or not the relations took place or not. So what would be the point of fucking testing it? So yeah, there's that. So I don't.
It shows that they have a habit of mishandling these cases.
Oh, it really? This.
How many years has it been since this happened?
Tell me where this happened. Tell me how this detective, how this department has such this horrible history. And like, to answer your question about corruption,
I didn't come in prepared, but there's some articles about that. Yes, if you look up the Minnesota
State.
Okay, that's the state Minnesota State, which the small town resides in. They reside
exactly.
in.
Yes.
So I was saying, like, it's a problematic issue that apparently goes across.
I'd like to answer your question.
States.
I'd like to answer your question. As far as corruption goes, I think much like in anywhere else in life, you will find corruption wherever you find humans. Yeah.
This is, again, a throwback to EKC philosophy, which is people suck, we all suck, therefore don't hold anybody accountable. Not really. Unless it's KJP. You can hold her accountable because we hate her.
That's going to happen. But as far as police department in general, no, I don't think all police departments or in general are corrupt. I think there is corruption in law.
I actually think there's corruption in every fucking department. And it's not every police officer. I think that there's a lot of good cops, but I think there's corruption in every fucking department, and I'm all about reform.
Enforcement, like anywhere else, any other profession. But that doesn't matter. We're talking about this specific department, this community, this detective. This is all I'm talking about. I don't care to talk about any others.
Why wait that many years to destroy this person's life?
Yeah, that's the only reason why she filed a report is because she got mad. She got mad.
What do you mean?
Your narrative is that she's doing it just to destroy people's life, but people have a lot of strong feelings about. You can say the same thing about every child that comes forward and says, like, this happened to me when I was an altar boy or whatever. Like there's a reason why people hold on to this. They do think the system doesn't work. God. They do. People don't report. They're already afraid that it's going to be mishandled. That won't be believed. Like it's already an existing fear. There's so many people I've known that have had something happen to them, and it is a real existing fear. They are afraid to report it, and if it's date rape, heaven forbid you report that. How do you prove that? How do you prove date rape in the state of Minnesota if you've had 2 drinks in 2007? Like it's easier to prove like a rando and an assault, but it is a lot harder to prove a date rape.
But she didn't file a report. She didn't file a report until 2020, and she only filed it after she got pissed off that I had a FOIA request granted. That's when she finally filed against this detective.
She's mad that someone got pissed off that a FOIA request was requested. I would think that any victim would be more than mad. I think they'd be horrified. I think they'd be traumatized. I think there'd be a lot of things. So yeah, probably it would incite somebody to hit harder. Absolutely. That's one reaction. Some people run, other people hit harder. I'm not surprised. We're human beings. Too. Like, the fact is, like, if Tina
Well,
has a
it's the
complaint
law. I mean,
about her surgeon and how he performed his surgery on her, it's not my duty to be able to pull that off. Luckily, we have laws in place that keep people like EKC from pulling medical reports. Thank goodness,
I
because
don't
who
want
knows what
medical
happened
reports.
then. You know,
Really? Oh, ooh, how's
there,
that? No, no, no. I want
due
to
to
touch on that. What do you mean?
we can
What
prevent that.
would happen?
But
What would
unfortunately,
happen?
there's a loophole
would
that
happen?
allows you to pull a police report of an R
What
report.
would happen? What would
That's just
happen?
frightening.
What would
Dude,
happen?
it's crazy. You can't put yourself
what would
in this
happen?
person's shoes.
I'm
can't
putting
make
myself. I think it's funny that I have to put myself in the cop's shoes, who is protected by the thin blue line, who's got a representative in his corner, right? Like not EKC, but an actual representative in his corner, who's about, well, at that time retired at that point. I find it interesting that like this is like, you know, the person I have to put you know, myself in the shoes of, but then I can't put myself in the shoes of a victim that is going through all this.
Any
And the
difference.
person's shoes who comes in and has R actually happen to them is in a cold and horrible situation where they have to be like going
13
through it.
years
They
later?
are traumatized. They're
13
traumatized
years
in the
later.
situation. And they feel like they're not being listened to. Maybe they have some macho swaggering cop that's like, hey, I just know everything. And they have this experience where they have their own feelings of being traumatized, and then also dealing with somebody that is not empathetic, or they don't feel as empathetic on top of it. And the general coldness of the system. I feel like that
13 years
is a lot to contend with. So
There's a
yes,
good-
years later, after a traumatic event,
13 years
people with
later.
PTSD and
she didn't come
CPTSD,
after-
they do address it later. That's not
Can I
uncommon.
talk? Can I fucking talk here?
Yeah.
She didn't address it then, 2007. She didn't address it 5 years later. She addressed it 13 years later when she went on this whole like tour or whatever of talking about her story, of putting it out there, laughing about it and everything, about how people are getting all this shit now with social media because of her. Okay. This is when she talked about it. She didn't file a report until, I don't know, until after she got mad about the FOIA request being granted, when she realized that the shit that she was saying was fuck, people are looking into it. Okay. So yeah, up until that point, it was just her telling her story for whatever reason, getting sympathy or whatever it is she wanted. I don't care. It just doesn't matter to me. But she didn't make it real with the officer until she felt she had to. And then
There's a lot of reasons for that. If you already have an experience where you don't believe, okay, if you already have an experience where you believe that the system has failed you, and we'll just take it from this mindset here. If you've already had experience where you feel mistreated, the system's failed you, and you just fold your cards. You're just like, I'm never going to get justice. It's never going to get resolved. I just give up. It's really common, incredibly common. I would say that there are far more people that experience SA or R that do not file a report, that give up, or do not pursue it any further. It's a very common. Yeah, I think that you could 13 years later get really angry about it, especially when somebody decides that they don't like you telling your story and they pull the R report. Yeah, I think that it kind of makes sense. But this notion of like that trauma sort of has like a time limit to respond to, or to talk about it. That's not really true. You know, and I don't usually tip my hand on things, but something happened to me as a kid, and I have to say that I didn't talk about it probably till I was to anybody. Not well. I mean, I tried to, and it didn't work out very well. But I didn't talk about it to anybody till probably 28-ish when I finally saw a psychiatrist. And I would say that it is incredibly common for people that I've talked with that they run into similar experiences where they give up and they just don't talk about it. And the problem is, though, if you do go through something like that, and again, and I was on the younger side, but even as an adult, like it doesn't really go away. It just starts to look different, and you process it differently. And so it's almost like if Tina says she's experienced this, I don't understand why she doesn't have more empathy. And if I think EKC said a couple of times that she's never experienced this and doesn't know anybody that has done this, which is interesting because I've known a few people that have gone through this and they've been vulnerable. So I don't know why people aren't vulnerable with you, but I'm glad that they aren't, because I don't think you're a safe person, EKC. But it's just mind blowing to me that there's this lack of empathy for victims, especially if what Tina's saying, because she mentioned that she is also a victim. I don't understand why she's okay with this. It's mind blowing. Like just woman to woman pleading with you. Like, how are you okay with this? Because you're the one that should have a little bit of a heart. I hear a ticking heart, just a little bit. It's so faint because you're full of so much rage. But unlike EKC, I think there's a little bit of a heart in you, Tina. And I don't know how the fuck you can justify this and square this, especially if what you said was true. Like, it doesn't make sense.
When the department investigated and listened to the recording of their interview from 2007, they quickly determined her claims to be unfounded. So
it's amazing how the police department always comes up with that.
Oh my God.
It's unfounded. It's unfounded. It's
So
just, show
me where this happened. Show me the pattern with this department. Show me the
I'm
pattern
not here to
department.
prove the truthiness of her claim. What I'm here to do is defend our victims' feelings about how they are treated.
You're not.
How they are treated in an investigation.
This isn't.
And
this
to
isn't
keep
about
people
that.
like, this isn't about this. I want it to be about the thing that it's about. And it's my excuse to do the horrible things that I do. And I'm going to excuse it because I need to defend a cop. This is what it's about. This is what it's about. But it's not. It's not what it's about. You just hate KJP so much and you don't believe her. And you think she's a vindictive bee. And so therefore you can justify doing this. That's what I think it's about. I think the real reason is that personal reason that you won't tell us about. But it's the personal reason that Tina's telling us about. Well, KJP did this and she did that and she did this. And she's painting this vindictive picture of who KJP is. And sometimes KJP is a vindictive bee. Sometimes. But you painted this picture and you're going to use it to justify it. But you know it's not justifiable. So you made up a narrative. And I think Tina helped you write it. You from going, oh, well, the thin blue line, I need to protect all police officers because they surely don't have a union or representatives to do that. So I'm going to take it upon myself to put this on blast on YouTube.
You know what?
And you don't care. You don't care
if
you send that from 4 people to 400 people. You said
you
didn't care.
She talked
You're
about
just making
it
up shit now.
200,000.
I literally am quoting you.
You are literally making up shit right now. Okay, I didn't say that it was my job to defend all.
I don't care if I sent this to 4 people or I could have sent it to 400 people. I don't care. There's a clip of that. Yeah, it's pretty horrendous. And she said that and I went, okay. She also said on Twitter, she ought to be humiliated. She said that on Twitter. She ought to be humiliated. And then she backed out and said she ought to be humiliated because of what she did with the cop. I'm telling you, Tina's telling what's behind it. It's not that there's valiant defenders of all police officers. It's that look what Katie's done. Katie called a girl a brat who may have been a victim of abuse. Look at how Katie Joy handled the Duggars and how she drug out that report. Look how bad it is. Look at what Katie did. She gave me a TRO. Look what Katie did. Look what Katie did. Look what Katie did. It's almost like Tina's kind of laid out what the reasoning is. It's revenge. Katie's done awful things sometimes. Yes. You could call her out on it. Yes. I'm not defending all things Katie. Katie can be criticized. Absolutely. But I think Tina was a little too honest. She pulled it out. The thing that EKC knows not to be honest about, which is it's tit for tat revenge. She did this, so I'm doing this.
Police officers. It was like they did.
Well,
their
clearly I'm
union could have done
hyperbolic a
something.
little bit there.
Oh yeah, you think? That's my whole fucking point. Okay, let's stick
Listen,
to the
improv. Okay,
actuality.
calm down. Let's bring it down a
Ooh,
notch.
improv.
Why
Okay.
I was getting fatigued at that point, as you can tell. If I'm like taking a swing, listen, improv at that point, I'm fatigued. She said she went to improv camp, and I thought, lol, so you can learn how to lie better. The amount of people that think that them doing this was ever okay is effed up. Yeah, it is. And I think that's why I'm kind of showing the chat is like, there's a lot of people that do defend it. They think it's effed up and, it's okay. It's okay because it's KJP. Have you seen what she's done? The report should never be out for people picking it apart, period. This kind of behavior, Erin needs to realize she will always have to answer for and not be so annoyed about. It also is interesting too, because without a crystal clear balls had shared a lot of it, shared some pictures and stuff like that. And, and that's when she said, I don't care if I shared it with 4 people or 400 people. I think it came out that she shared it with Sassy. She shared it with Balls. Those are 2 that I can think of. I can guess you shared it with Steve. And somehow miraculously, we don't know how, but somehow miraculously it ended up in Roadhog's hands. Yeah, it's terrifying and horrific and it's fucking evil. Like I'm gonna use a religious word. I think it's evil. It's so dark that I despise you, Erin, and I wouldn't do that to you.
Like
such
that.
a problem with my improv. Yeah. Why do you gotta throw out insults like a fucking
Why be
petulant
snarky?
child?
We're having a civil conversation right now. I want to know why the chat, because I don't know what they're talking about, but everybody in the chat keeps saying about Katie pulling a.
It's really hard to call a conversation like this civil. As much as I was trying to be civil, it's really hard because it's horrible.
Child's medical records. Who are they talking about?
Oh yeah, Sophie Long.
Are they talking about Sophie Long?
Yeah,
so they're talking a tit for tat situation.
Yeah, and I don't agree with that.
But that's a bad argument anyway. Like, so the Sophie Long situation, CJ was smart enough to point out that they would bring that up at some point when I had agreed to debating like a long time ago. She's really bright. CJ sees things. And I was like, yeah. That it might have been a moral excuse to do something like this to them. It's I think without like going through all that and doing this really happened in this case, and without going through that bunny trail, because it is a bunny trail and it actually doesn't fare well for Tina and EKC. But what I would say for that is even granted, if you think that like somebody's overstepped and done that, criticize them. That's fair. That's fair. Absolutely fair to criticize somebody when they do something like that. If she did that, call her out on that. Call her on that.
Was a liar.
Call her out on that.
Okay for Katie, but it's not okay for anybody else to do the same.
I'm not defending that. I'm not defending that. What I'm defending is generally women in particular who tell a story, and if somebody goes, I disbelieve it, and I want to defend a cop pulling the R report of all things.
No, that's not what happened.
Oh my God.
See what I mean? And you don't even
Katie
know what
told
happened.
her story. Yeah, if
you're not even bothering to learn the fucking how it all played out. You don't even care.
I know your narrative.
My narrative. Well, considering it's
Tina's
about me and my
narrative, which
actions,
is Katie blasts the police. It causes distrust.
Me and my fucking actions.
It's harming victims.
No, that's not what happened.
Because they're afraid to go forward. I was going through the flow chart that Tina had created, which EKC echoed later. It's the flow chart. I made it, remember? Belinda says not releasing the report itself, but have defended Erin's thought process on the cop in the past. I thought she was a genuine person. I shouldn't have. I think that there's some people that could be in the gray area, and some people tend to defend cops for whatever reason. But I don't think she's genuine either. I don't.
It's
Really
not the
going
narrative.
through Tina's
You
points.
literally don't know shit. You literally haven't even bothered to learn the specifics.
how
I
would
made a
you
video.
What did I get
was
wrong?
interviewed on Uni's channel. I mean, what
How
happened
would
was
you feel if you were one of these people that Katie did this to? How would you feel if she defamed you in a way and accused you of crimes and you didn't have a way to defend yourself? How would you feel if she did that? Put yourself in victim's shoes. How do you think
I am
Sophie
putting
Long
myself
is gonna
in
feel when
victim's
she
shoes
becomes an
in this
adult
incident?
And she sees all the stuff that Katie said about her? She called her a liar and a little brat. How
Call her out
would
on it.
you feel?
That's fair.
I have, and I ended up
I
with
don't-
the TRO because I
don't care.
criticized her for her bad behavior.
You have to understand that I don't have a problem with criticizing Katie when she does big fuck ups like that. What
And
I
I
do
don't
have a
care
problem is
about that.
of our victims in general.
Okay, I've been an R victim.
okay. Yeah.
I have
So
been
does
several
that-
times
So
over.
why
that
are
give-
I've been an R victim several times over. And for that I'm sorry to hear, Tina. I really am. I'm always sorry to hear about that. But I don't know how you could be cool with this. I don't know how you could swear it. I really don't. Emotionally, I don't know how you can swear it. Morally, I don't know how you can swear it. I just don't get it. Are
Give
you
you a
happily
right.
doing this
That-
then, Tina?
does that
I
give you a
didn't
right?
have anything to do with it. I'm just
You don't have anything to do with it, but you're defending it something fiercely.
discussing it with
You're
you,
so-
but I wasn't on that stream. I had nothing to do with it.
Would you have talked Aaron out
Correct,
of it?
Aaron?
Would you have
What do
talked
you
Aaron
mean?
out of it?
She didn't agree with me doing it.
Okay, good.
I tried
good to
to
know.
talk Aaron out of going on to that stream and doing it. Would have been better in a blog because it wouldn't have been taken out of context like this. It would have been just the truth, right?
What am I
It would
taking
have
out?
been just
of
about the
context?
officer.
Listen,
It would have been just the truth. So, like, Tina really thinks that her narrative, her perception, her telling of events is really just so factual that there couldn't be any possible error. And, like, I think that's really strange that the amount of investment of, like, she just knows that she knows that she knows in the depth of her heart. And I've met people like this before, and I know people like this, and usually they're religious fanatics, by the way, that that they just know that they know, and if they yell passionately enough and kind of push you enough, that like you're just gonna be like, yeah, I see now that you're so just, I'm sorry, but no. I'll rephrase
You're
what you
making
told
it
me.
about something that it's not.
Listen,
You're making
I'm
it
trying
about
to
something
say-
other than saying.
I'm trying to tell you that
an
there is
officer.
another perspective, and if you
No,
can
I've
get
heard your
you're not.
That's me losing my temper. That's what I look like when I'm losing my temper right there.
It's
Own
bullshit.
narrative.
Listen,
There
but
might
you
be
have to get
another
it- you
perspective,
have-
Tina.
You have to get the facts up first. You have to get it
all the
straight.
facts
This
first. That's
isn't-
why I
this
tried to
isn't
ask you if you knew about everything. Sorry,
This isn't
Erin.
about Katie just not feeling like she was treated well, or that she was heard, or that she was, I don't know, or that the officer was just mean or whatever. That's not what happened. But you keep trying to display it as such. That's not
She went
what we're
after
talking
an
about.
innocent family and their businesses. She went after an officer and his job. She went after a police department.
Oh, and the Sophie Long thing, TT says she didn't call her a liar and a brat. She said she was possibly manipulated by her father, which was proven to be true, ? Right?
Like
She lied.
everybody
She
except for the-
accused them of being negligent. She accused them of being purposely like hateful toward a victim, of refusing to do their job. Of being
There's
corrupt.
a lot of R victims and SA victims that echo that same sentiment. You know that.
How
right?
I
do
don't
you
care.
think that
I don't.
the
We're not
man's
talking
family-
about them. We're not talking
How do
about
you
them.
think-
It's just different because it's
Why
Katie.
don't you stick to this
God.
person, this case, this instance?
It's just-
Why don't
it's
you
just-
try doing that?
You're the one that are hopping all over the place. Like
How
I'm
do you
sticking
think
with
of-
it.
How do you think the
Like,
person that
talking
she
about
accused
others?
of doing
Okay.
this, how do you think their
It's bullshit.
family felt when they got hundreds or thousands of messages from people on YouTube because she
Belinda says, it is in a blog, Tina, a very subjective blog that mirrors exactly what Aaron said in the stream. Oh no, I hit a button. Oh no, I hit a
Trans
button.
streamer Keffels has been doxxed.
Keffels? That's not where we want to go. We're going to get away from Keffels. That's a whole nother bunny trail. Let's see, where was that?
that's unacceptable, and it goes against so much on the platform. Like,
Oh gosh.
imagine if she did that to you or to one of your family members.
Okay,
How
so
would
I
you
lost my
feel?
space. Hang
Those
on.
children a step further.
I hit a button.
Okay, and you think about the things that Katie said.
Cold and callous and cruel.
Katie did this to you. How would you feel if she defamed you in a way and accused
Oh, I'm going to just play this before I get to the right spot.
you of crimes and you didn't have a way to defend yourself? How would you feel if she did that? Put yourself in victim's shoes. How do you think
I am
Sophie
putting
Long
myself
is gonna
in
feel when
victim's
she
shoes
becomes an
in this
adult
incident?
And she sees all the stuff that Katie said about her? She called her a liar and a little brat. How
Call her out
would
on
you
it.
feel?
That's fair.
I have, and I ended.
So that's I think what TT was trying to explain was the liar and the little brat thing. Yeah, I kind of knew the backstory of that one because it was explained to me quite a bit, and then I kind of looked it up, but I don't know the ins and outs of it. I'm not as obsessed and laser focused on KJP as they are, but I knew like a TDLR version of it, and that's kind of like the ending of all that. That's kind of what I heard as well. So the reason why I didn't really address that much is because it is whataboutery. What about what Katie did? I can do this because that's what Katie did. So I let her kind of rant about it, and then I granted it. I just said, we'll call her out on it. You know, like Katie does things that are wrong and messed up. We know this. Call her out on it. It's irrelevant.
Why don't you stick to this person, this case, this instance? Why don't you try doing that?
You're the one. Oh, the irony of that. Why don't you try to stick with this? Oh, dear. Okay, let me try to find where I left off at. I'm still working on it. To do it, you got rejected, 3 times? And you had to... Oh.
You think
I am putting myself in
victim
victim's shoes. I guess I'll start off here. I apologize if I'm way far behind. My bad. I'm going to read a couple comments real quick. Most honest thing EKC ever said was, I don't care. Yeah. Little Red is just as bad as them all. I don't know. See, I think she's sort of the useful... I think she was a useful... I don't want to say the word idiot because it's too mean, but the useful tool in this. They used her platform, and she willingly used it, and puts her platform at risk, and then kind of goes along. And that it's too bad. I know that there's a lot of people who have really soft spots for her. I find her relations and her allies and what she supports very disturbing. I'll just leave it at that.
Becomes an adult, and she sees all the stuff that Katie said about her. She called her a liar and a little brat. How
call her out on it. That's fair.
I have, and I ended up with a TRO because I criticized her for her bad behavior.
You have to understand that I don't have a problem with criticizing Katie when she does big fuck ups like that. What I do have a problem is of our victims in general.
Okay, I've been our victim.
Okay, yeah.
I have been several.
Exiled says, I'd be okay if these women could simply admit that what they did is upsetting to other victims. Yeah. And also could be a deterrent. Like the whole thing, the argument of like, I had to do this for this cop because otherwise it was re-victimizing victims and keeping them from trusting and getting help. Like, as if this isn't.
Does that
times
So
over.
that
why are
give
you
you a right?
happily doing this then, Tina?
Does that
I
give you a
didn't
right?
have anything to do with it. I'm discussing it with
You're
you,
so-
but I wasn't on that stream. I had nothing to do with it.
Would you have talked Aaron out
Correct,
of it?
Aaron?
Would you have
What do
talked
you
Aaron
mean?
out of it?
She didn't agree with me doing it.
Okay, good.
I tried
good to
to
know.
talk Aaron out of going on to that stream and doing it. Would have been better in a blog because it wouldn't have been taken out of context like this. It would have been just the truth, right?
What am I
It would
taking
have
out
been just
of
about
context?
the officer.
Listen,
I'll rephrase
You're
what you
making
told
it
me.
about something that it's not.
Listen,
You're making
I'm
it
trying
about
to
something
say-
other than saying.
I'm trying to tell you that
an
there is
officer.
another perspective, and if you
No,
can
I've
get
heard your
your
perspective.
own
It's bullshit.
narrative,
listen.
there
but
might
you
be
have to get
another
it-
perspective, Tina.
You have to get the facts so first. You have to
Right,
get it
all
straight.
the facts
This
first. That's
isn't-
why I
this
tried to
isn't
ask
a-
you if you knew about everything. Sorry,
This isn't
Aaron.
about Katie just not feeling like she was treated well or that she was heard or that she was, I don't know, or that the officer was just mean or whatever. That's not what happened, but you keep trying to display it as such. It's not
She went
what we're
after
talking
an
about.
innocent family and their businesses. She went after an officer and his job. She went after a police department. Like
She lied.
everybody
She
except
I'm
accused
trying to
them
get back to
of
where we
being
were.
negligent. She
Sorry.
accused them of being purposely like hateful toward a victim, of refusing to do their job. Of
You
being
know, there's a
courageous.
lot of our victims and SA victims that echo that same sentiment. You know that.
How
I
do
right?
don't
you
care.
think that the
We're not
man's
talking
family-
about them. We're not talking
How do
about
you
them.
think-
It's just different because it's
Why
Katie.
don't you stick to this
God.
person, this case, this instance?
Just-
Why don't
it's
you
just-
try doing that?
You're the one that are hopping all over the place. Like
How
I'm
do you
sticking
think
with
of-
it.
How do you think the
But
person that
talking
she
about
accused
others?
of doing
Okay.
this, how do you think their
That's bullshit.
family felt when they got hundreds or thousands of messages from people on YouTube because she had disparaged them and said that they were involved and they
Tina should absolutely not be okay if hers was published. Nobody should be okay if theirs was published. Nobody should be okay if theirs was picked apart and discussed. And by the way, a lot of Aaron's fan club in chat say, "Oh, it never happened," and deny. They're willing to say the things that Aaron's not willing to say out loud.
paid off the police department and all this other shit. She went after an innocent family. You cannot convict a whole family for one person's crimes. You cannot do that.
You got
She was lying and called her a brat. An innocent child.
Sat here and tried to dominate the conversation with your own.
She was lying and called her a brat. An innocent child. It doesn't get any worse than that.
So are you trying to tell me this is revenge?
No, actually, no, not at all.
Is this a tit for tat revenge? Katie
No,
did something
in
like that,
fact-
so therefore
fact,
she deserves
I
this.
Well,
I have constantly and emphatically said that just because she did it does not mean that's not why I did it. I did it for my own reasons that had absolutely nothing to do with that, and I'm not going to let somebody else's actions dictate my actions. So
Okay. Can I tell
If
you
we were
my
any-
feelings
if
about
we
it?
were anything
I don't
like
care.
Katie,
I don't give a
we
shit
wouldn't
your
even
feelings
notice
about it.
Katie's bad
Because I think
behavior.
I charitably expressed back what Tina's argument was. So here's my argument. I think
I don't
it's
really
really
care.
hard for victims to come forward, just in general. Just hear me out for a minute.
no, I
Look
really
at all
don't.
the
very
look at all the
hard.
trolls in the
It's
chat.
very hard for victims to come forward.
I'm
For
not
one.
paying attention to the chat.
Two, once they do come forward, it's a very shared experience that SA victims, R victims are humiliated. They don't think it's actually going to work. They feel
Okay, I don't
degraded
give a shit.
already,
Listen,
and they go through the
that's not
emotional
what this is
components of
about.
trauma.
That's not what this is about. This
Three-
is about Katie.
Three,
Okay,
after going
enough,
through that
enough.
hurdle, people are going.
I'm sorry. I'm not going to let
Aaron,
her
read
fucking
what
spin.
Soulshine. Read what Soulshine
Her narrative.
says because it's true.
Where
EKC,
Yeah.
how about the Duggar sisters that KJ blasted what their brother did to them as children?
the children. Yeah,
Hello?
exactly.
What about her again? You can have all sorts of criticisms about that. I think it's fair.
Okay, I'm
done.
I'm
This is
muting
why
your mic.
People say I didn't answer her questions. Her questions were either I've created an argument, now yes or no, which I addressed earlier, or there's this one. It's like, well, what about this? Well, I think it's fair to criticize it. Like, what about it? What about it? People do shitty things. Like, and shitty people can be victims. I think it's possible Steve can be a victim. I dislike Steve. I think it's possible EKC could be a victim. I dislike her. I don't think either of them are very good truth tellers, but it's possible they could be victims.
Microphone out. It's just I don't care. I'm not going to let you sit here and pull in all
No,
these ridiculous
I
arguments from
let
other
Tina
people.
tell
Keep it
her
short.
narrative.
No, you haven't. You haven't let
not
I
either
did,
of us
and I
talk.
repeated
don't
it
even
back to
listen.
you. I asked if it was
haven't.
charitable. You said yes.
You
So then I had
haven't.
questions, and now you're
You
yelling
haven't.
at me.
You haven't.
So-
You haven't
so-
let either of us talk. You have just sat here and tried to dominate the conversation with your own I don't know, snarky little attitude or whatever. And then you're
Oh,
sitting here saying,
I'm
"Where?
sorry.
Show me where in the doll Katie hurt you."
Listen,
Like,
Cirque du
how
Face.
fucking old are you?
Listen,
Wow,
Cirque du Face. I am
Wow.
I am not snarky. I'm
Ow.
just improving.
Aaron.
Cirque du Face. Yeah. It's a reference to a movie called The Good Girl. But it's not about her face as much as her makeup application and how very, very pink she is. Is it petty? Yes. Yes, it is. I'm not sorry. I said improv, Cirque du Face, and show me on the doll where Katie hurt you. And probably the worst one is the doll one, which is an old phrase. But also I did it because she is just so fucking heartless. Listen,
That
y'all.
Well, you suck at it.
Narrative. Tina.
Wow.
Fuck that. All right, I kicked her. I don't give a shit.
Good.
Okay.
I don't have. This is why I don't deal with any of them. They're fucking.
Brandon's here. He's gonna clear things up.
First off, I didn't even have anything to do with it. I didn't want you to do it the way you did
But
it.
she wanted to
but-
get a feel for you, Tina. She wanted to get a feel for you.
Yeah. Okay.
I did want to get a feel for you because I feel like you're the one that's a little more honest, and I feel like you're still a hot fucking mess, and vicious. But also, I thought maybe there's a ticking heart in there, and like surely you know this is wrong.
God.
Hi, Brandon. Sorry, I thought it.
Hello.
I should have the three of us.
Well,
I gotta go.
I-
Aaron, I gotta go. My dude called in the middle of all that. So I gotta get off of here. We're gonna have
right.
to do a stream soon.
All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Yeah, wow. I've been on for the past few minutes, and the amount of deflection that was going on is wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Now, Steve, before I let you on, because I see you back there. Because
I didn't really need to deflect. I'm trying to think of what I was deflecting. Not really. I stepped over a Unirock bunny trail. I stepped over a Sophie Long bunny trail. I stepped over a Duggar's bunny trail, which was all whataboutery. It's all not relevant. It's like you want to criticize Uni, criticize them. You want to criticize KJP, criticize her. Like granted, moving on. That's not deflection. And as far as the questions that Tino wrote, it was very dishonest and a Trojan horse. So it's like, let me paint this narrative, and I'm going to have all these things packed in here that you have to grant and then answer yes or no. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to. Doesn't work like that.
because I do want to wrap this up soon. I want to just say a few things here. I understand how Katie may have felt or whatever, but here's the thing, though. Just because she, assuming she was telling.
No, that's the point. I don't think you understand what Katie may have felt. I think that's the whole fucking point. Like, if you understood, I don't think, if you understood how people are responding to this, even not your little fan club, but a lot of other people are responding so negatively to this and saying that like I've heard people cry. I've heard people just almost like just the disgust level is so high. Like if you knew that and understood that, I think maybe, yeah, but no, you don't. Like just saying, I understand how you feel, and you're bartendering us going, I understand how you feel, and I'm going to placate that and give you that sort of empty apology. It's not an apology. It's not understanding. You don't understand. Clearly you don't understand.
Telling the truth, just because.
The only thing that you're upset at is that you're being held accountable. And your whole theme is people suck, we all suck, and we're all hypocrites. Like that's your whole fucking moral structure, isn't it?
She was an SA victim doesn't give her the right, doesn't give anyone, no one has the right to spread those kinds of lies and defame a person, a department, and basically the people who serve a community in such a way, or to defame victims advocates. You don't get that right just because you're a victim and you're pissed off at the way your case went. I get it. I can emphasize with being pissed off, but that doesn't give you the right to cause other victims and cause that harm. It just doesn't. And that's the bottom line. It didn't give Katie the right to do that. So she can, HolySpackle can sit there and say that I'm harming a victim or I'm harming victims or whatever. I don't think so. I truly and firmly believe that I was thinking of victims, potential victims, and future victims in that community when I did what I did. Okay. Because it's ultimately that department, that team of law enforcement, those advocates that they will be reporting to. So that's who they need to have trust in. That was who I was thinking of, not someone who was a victim 13 years ago, which I don't mean to sound callous there, but I'm thinking about today's victims, tomorrow's victims.
The woman that doesn't care about past victims because she thinks that trauma has an expiration date. She understands it so well. She's so caring, so compassionate, understands how victims feel. Real champion and advocate right there.
Okay. Bottom line, I don't care. Fuck HolySpackle, really. Like, she doesn't want to fucking have a grown-up conversation either. With the way she talks, she has to over-talk. She has to make snarky little insults and remarks or whatever. Fucking grow up.
I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid.
And this is, yeah, this is also this isn't the first time Katie's done something like this, though.
Right? It's not.
SC Johnson. Amarose was like from, I guess the way the shorthanded Amarose is from old NSS days when NSS was like new and bright and shiny, and saw all of the evolution go on, and was a mod there at one point, I believe, at least in the server. So yeah, Amarose has been around for a long time.
Steve.
Well, hey, Brandon. Yeah, Brandon.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
I have one or two things like if Aaron is so gracious enough to allow me to add it.
Wow.
First, I want to say my Beavers unit, thank you for the super chats.
Steve, so brave. Meanwhile, he was calling me a psychopath in the chat. I might have top chat in here. But while this was all going on, I was misgendered. I was told I was ugly. I was told I was a psychopath. I was told I am fighting for KJP. I just busted the chat. We can't see. But if you scroll through, like, Steve called me a psychopath a bunch of times, a sociopath, a psychopath, and, taking shots in the sideline, to be expected. But being the courageous man he is, he popped in at the end.
Knock knock, who's there? Daisy me room. Sorry. I missed all these. Wow, this stream was going. One more. My Beavers unit, KJ Simp, LOL listen, Linda listen, Doe. Okay, you guys can talk. I have another one, but I gotta find it first.
First, I love your hairstyle. Don't change that. That looks. I don't know what you did. It looks different. Looks good.
I didn't do it. I didn't do my hair. That's
well, leave it like that. No,
yeah.
I love it when you violently comb your hair.
Okay, so and don't sue me for harassment. Okay, please. Okay, so people need to
It's
realize.
so cute to talk about harassment jokes in the middle of this.
Even if somebody is a victim of something, it doesn't give them the right to make other victims. You can have pain in your own life. That doesn't give you the right to make everybody else miserable. Whether Katie had been art or not, and I'm just going to say it, the word is rape. Okay, we should.
I was trying to be respectful to EKC's platform. Newsflash: the reason why I didn't say the R word is because a lot of people who are monetized do not want you to say R word because it picks up in the algorithm, and either you end up with a hidden stream that's sort of like lost in the shuffle and won't pop up for people, or you end up with something that's demonetized. So out of respect for somebody that I don't have respect for, I didn't say the word, Steve.
Look, you don't give a shit whether you
okay.
I mean, it's straight up. That's the fucking word. And there's a reason why that word, it fills people with such vile, because it's a horrific fucking word. And it's being used. It is being used as a weapon by people like the HolySpackle. So
He doesn't like it when we highlight the things that he says and does. So he's really spitting nails because he's having flashbacks of being called to the carpet for defending David O'Warden and other bastards. Island Mama super chatted EKC for $13.99. You did the right thing, sending Spackle to the void.
Even if Katie was raped or not,
that's my other point.
That doesn't matter for her to give any. It doesn't give her the right to make this police officer a.
So never was I arguing if KJP was art or not, Steve. That would be something that it seems like you, EKC, and Tina seem to be concerned about. There's definitely that vibe there that there's like a just immediate disbelief that like there's no way that she could be a victim. But if you look at where I was arguing, that's not actually where I was arguing either. But he's basically taken what I'm talking about and put it somewhere else, which is kind of interesting.
Victim. It doesn't give her the right to make me a victim because she falsely accused me.
Now it's about Steve's victimhood. KJP has made me a victim. Have you seen the latest victimhood that KJP did to me? He even hashtags me too because he's just such a victim of KJP. Oh, such a baby. Poor Pasito.
It doesn't give her right to make Aaron a victim or Tina a victim. That's the point that HolySpackle cannot understand because she doesn't want to understand. Her whole shtick online is to go into hangouts and just get people upset. But I was laughing the entire time because she made a fool of herself.
Oh, man. Such a victim. I'm going to check some of the comments here. Yeah, I was calm for most of it. I have my moments where I lose temper. I'm a human being. And oftentimes it's when I don't self-regulate or I'm really tired. So if I'm really tired, I'm more likely to do that, you know? So Steve is a victim. He is. He's just such a victim. Let me see here. Let me scroll through. I'm just looking through. Super chat from Melissa Boomer. Melissa, good to see you. Hope you're feeling better. In case Steve just scrubs this, it only takes him 20 minutes. I misspoke. In case Steve scrubs this, it only takes him 20 seconds to make it about him. Yes, right? I am a victim. He's just whining and sniveling about his victimhood. Like when we are talking about some real serious heavy shit, he's just such a victim. It's always about him and his stupid bloggy links. It's just kind of trippy how that always happens. Let me see here. Have they ever explained why they need to explain the police officer? Well, I think KJP said that like she believed that it was taking root on social media in the small town and somebody ought to do something about it. And I believe that Tina said that KJP was taking swings at the family and businesses. So I think that is their explanation. And I'm just trying to repeat it just so, you know, trying to be charitable and repeat what they said there. I have had an asthma flare forever. I got sick about 3 weeks ago. So if I cough, I'm really sorry. I try to catch the mute button in time, but sometimes I don't make it. He's definitely not laughing the entire time. He's spazzing out in the chat, demanding everybody confirm that I'm a troll. Right? That's kind of what I saw out of it. Let's see here. Actually, I did play it in full. If anything, I played extra because I had to rewind back because I had lost my spot and I rewound back. So I did a fucking good job. I think the only thing I may have skipped on by accident is a show when I said something wrong, and I'll fucking call it out. Like you can say it's wrong or whatever. Where I said, considering the context of the discussion, show me on the doll where Katie hurt you, which was kind of a rude phrase considering the subject. So I probably could have worded that better. But that was an accident to skip by, and it was just deflection in the answer anyway, so it didn't really matter. It's like she was just like oh. So like I think that's the only thing I may have accidentally missed just a little bit of. But yeah, let me see here. Yep, it's all about Steve, right? Steve's the real victim here, not anybody whose report got read. That's not the case. Yeah, so right. Show me on the doll. I mean, it's a rough joke to make, but I kind of I cope with a lot of sardonic humor myself.
And I kept saying, this is what she does. So I applaud what you did, EKC. You stood up for a victim, a real victim, and that was a police officer. And I will stand by you on that.
Yeah, and
a real victim. A real victim. Say that again. A real victim. Real victim. Because the other person wouldn't be a victim. It's the assumption that they make. Do you see what they're doing? Do you see what they're doing? EKC knows and smart enough to know that she's going to lose subs if she admits to this. But Tina and Steve do admit to it.
He was a victim who didn't have a voice because he was bound by professional ethics. He couldn't speak out in defense of himself. He couldn't speak out against the claims Katie was making.
Exactly. Yep. You were his voice. You were his advocate. How could that not be applauded? No matter what happened with Katie. And by the way, it's kind of funny that they do have alternate facts. Right? Like, oh, why wasn't the rape kit tested? Well, because they both had agreed they had sex, and back then they just didn't need to do it because that's what determined whether they had sex or not. It would have been, useless time and resources for the lab. That's why.
So I explained that earlier. My reasoning behind that was to kind of paint an overall picture of how Minnesota mishandles these things. Anything from the R kits, which in this case isn't relevant because it isn't relevant in the case per se, but it is painting a picture of a mishandling of victims in the state of Minnesota, and that is relevant. The very way that police handle this is very relevant, and it goes back 30 years. It's a problem. Another thing to bring up is the Minnesota law, which is a weird. Let me see if I can get back here. 1 second here. Minnesota law where there's an intoxication loophole. If you've had a drink, how many drinks did you have, ma'am? You're taking that report. How many drinks did you have? Maybe 1 or 2. Did you use any drugs? Did you pass out? Did you, there's a loophole in Minnesota law that allowed people to say, well, we're going to assume you consented. You both were drinking. So, like, how many dates have you been on where you've had a single drink, maybe 2 drinks? And imagine being in a state where it's difficult to prove that you did not consent. It's a date. You both did have relations, but I remind you, consent is ongoing. You can pull consent at any time. I'm going to be really crude here. I'm going to be really disgusted and say you can pull consent in an act while you're having relations at any time. So you can say, I'm down for this. And if you say, no, I don't want to do this, the person's supposed to stop. So, like, for instance, let's say, you want to have relations vaginally and someone wants to have relations on the back door and you say no. They're not allowed to just push through and say, this is the way I want to have relations with you. Like, it doesn't work that way. Consent is ongoing. But when you are trying to prove a date rape kind of situation, it is really difficult. It's very difficult. And a lot of people go, well, then you'd have fighting them off wounds and things like that. And they really blame the victim. And then you go, well, I've known a lot of people that deer in the headlights and freeze. Remember, in trauma, when you experience trauma, there's different things that our nervous system does. One is fight. And so a lot of people could fight their offender off. And sometimes you see that more like in a park where someone nabs you or whatever, and you fight kicks in and you try to gouge his eye or pull off his ear or whatever the fuck you need to do to get away from this guy. Kick him in the balls. And then there's freeze, where you don't know what to do. You're in shock. Some people have an outer body experience, sort of like they go into dissociation mode. They freeze. They don't know what to do. They're afraid to say no. They're scared of the person for some reason. There's like fight, freeze, and What the fuck is this? No, I don't want that. 1 second here. What the hell? I need to redo my whole laptop. 1 second. What is... I need to get bloatware off. I had downloaded something and I got bloatware everywhere. Give me 1 second. So I went through fight, flight, freeze, fawn. That's the one. That's the one that people oftentimes get people in trouble. And that happens on date rape too. Sometimes people fawn over people and they want to get out of it and they want to be gentle to a male ego, particularly guys. Can happen with girls too, but usually it's this, I don't want to let you down. I don't want to insult you. I want to get away and I'm going to coddle your ego and just be like, oh, it's fine. So I can get out of it. There's all sorts of different responses and stuff like that. Like, it's almost like these people don't read about it or they don't know anybody or it's just strange to me.
That's why.
Yeah, but instead though they use it as an argument like, oh, it's just it's because of it was a fucked up state and everything. They had all this backlog or whatever, and that may be true. I'm not saying it's not, but that wasn't the case with Katie.
Right. Yeah, and
Yeah.
so that's the point. I just wanted to say that I'm grateful that you had this hangout because people got to see the real HolySpackle. I mean, you saw how she was at the end. She broke character.
Yeah, I can be snarky. That is within my character. Yes. I can be compassionate too. That's within my character. We're all not one thing, Steve. We're not all just like a block of narcissism that you like to pretend everybody is.
Yeah, and can I just say, like I had not initiated any conversation about this since like it happened back in 2020. Okay, but it's these people who won't shut the fuck up.
Because you look bad and you know it. It's not that you feel bad about it, because you don't feel bad about it, but you know you look bad
about it. And you notice how she came in here in the chat and boom, right away, oh, like pulling someone's R report. So no one's even talking about that, but she pulls it up. Why? Because she's using the crime of R to make her argument for her. Right. She's exploiting that fucking.
I'm using the crime of R and the perception of a victim to humanize KJP and to humanize other people to prevent Karens like you from doing the shit that you do.
Shit. Okay. And I'm sorry. That's okay. How is that thinking of victims? It's not.
It definitely is actually. Your convoluted way of victim protection through defending a quote unquote victim's advocate is not at all very helpful. If I was to like weigh one harm over the other, even if I granted everything that you said is true, what you've done is arguably far worse.
That's her using fucking victims, using the crime, using the trauma called. It's
evil. This is what sociopaths do. Because
I am not a sociopath. Thank you very much. Steve once was acting really weird, and at that time was a mod for him. And somebody, not me, suggested, somebody that would be somebody would be knowing the signs, said, Steve, it seems to me that you're depressed. And I think people are getting worried about you. Maybe you should get some help. And, I can definitely, if we can alleviate some of the pressure from you, let's figure out how to do that. Steve took it as an insult and a moral affront to call him depressed. To just think, well, I'm trying to figure out why you're acting this way. Maybe you're depressed. And it was a moral affront to him. And he's like, I know people are depressed and I would never. And just the reaction to it was just interesting. So then he throws around the word sociopath. Well, sociopath and actually, while you can shorthand and use it like sociopath and psychopath, they're both not actually in the DSM. It's called anti-personality disorder, and then the other one's NPD. I think NPD and APD or something like that. I can't remember exactly because I'm really bad at acronyms and stuff. But he throws this around like candy. Like Julie's trolls him in chat, and it's not like it's a malicious troll. It's like a "Are you serious?" kind of like slapboxing troll, where Julie Virgo calls the hotline of, "Have you been hurt by KJP? Well, call our hotline. Tell us your story." And so Julie like trolled it and told the story of how like KJP blocked her and how traumatic it was and stuff. And they're like, yes, that's how she is. Tell us some more. And like everybody lolls at it. It was ridiculous. The victim Olympics. It's just so ridiculous. So yeah, people lolls at it. And Steve called Julie a psychopath for that. A psychopath. This man is not qualified to ever address anything like this, but also like he uses it as complete weaponization and stuff. It's so dark. And I think it's just interesting how liberally he does it, and how he's just like, this is what these people do, but also, he calls me a sociopath. Sociopaths are created and psychopaths are born. So I guess Julie is a born psychopath and I'm a created sociopath.
They don't care. They don't look at it from an empathy point of view. Do you think that the questions he asked you, really, she gave a crap about the answers? She wasn't answering any questions.
I did actually care about the answers, but I also knew like the story I was going to get. I already knew what you were going to say because I've studied the things that you say, Aaron. I literally got my binder out like Tina does, and I know your fucking argument. I know what it is. You didn't have to tell me, but I knew it already, but I wanted to engage, particularly Tina. I wanted to engage Tina.
She was sea lioning.
She was doing that whole, was it the false comparison thing or whatever?
Yeah.
Like
that was not a false comparison. It was me trying to move it from a very emotional subject to a less emotional subject to see if we could maybe like also find how disturbing that would be.
The doctor thing or whatever. Like, no, you make it fucking accurate, okay? Yeah. Because this wasn't the case of a police officer just not being very good at his job or not caring or whatever. That was being deliberately fucking negligent and corrupt.
He was lying about him, straight up lying. What other word to be used for that?
I don't even know this HolySpackle person, but it seems like she wasn't even trying to interact with the individual case. She kept trying to go to generalities, in my opinion.
You might have remembered her as
she was. Yeah.
So if I went to a generality of like how Minnesota handles our cases, I would say it is relevant. And if I went to a generality how victims feel and how they perceive the person that is doing the interview, yes, I think it matters.
Yes.
She used to go by, this is not doxing, she used to go by the moderate C word.
So I do have another channel or name. It's another channel name called the Moderate C Word. I had created like a community back in the Google Plus days called Moderate C Word, and then also let me see here. I have a little side channel and stuff like that. And in this one, there's a reason for it. I'll tell you the backstory of it. It's not that shocking. I think it's kind of funny, if anything. Let me see if I can not share my screen here. There we go. So in religious debate, there's a lot of firebrand anti-theists that believe that I'm going to make it real fast. Christianity and all religion does real harm and harms people. And within the firebrand anti-theists, there are some firebrand anti-theists that will say that will try to force progressive Christians and moderate Christians. And at that time, I was fairly progressive, into a position of being a fundamentalist, because A, it's easier to argue with fundamentalists, and B, they like to pretend like the fundamentalists are the only people that hold faith, like it's real faith. It's a manipulative move that they make. So there was a group of them that I used to call the Brexit Club, that wanted, Brexit Brexit to happen. And they were very anti-SJW and all that other stuff. And they would call me a moderate C word, like the word. And at first I was like kind of insulted, like, you know, but then I just got jaded from it because it's like, okay. And they did it to me, and they did it to other progressives and other moderate Christians or progressive Christians, and they would call you a C word. And so like it's a play on it. And I was like, okay, I'm a moderate C word. You know, if you are a moderate C word. And they were doing it also to people that were politically moderate. So if you were a centrist or you were slightly liberal, they would also call you a moderate C word as well. And they call you a soy boy and all the little tricks that they would do. So yeah, I did have that moniker, but my main one has always been HolySpackle. So there you go. There's a little bit of weird history for you. So anyway.
Yeah, moderate C word. She was in the Great Debate community. She was a G+ before it got defunct. So she was a moderator in my GDC.
Okay,
So I've known her 6 years. So I definitely know about her.
You've known me 6 years, but you've not known me.
So, thank you so much for the super chat, One Warped Angel. After all that, you deserve so much more. Please know I stand behind you. And thank you so much for the super chat. Where'd it go? Why don't I see it? There's a yellow one. Where'd it go? Okay, there it is. Was it? I can't read that. Island Mama, I think. You did the right thing sending Spackle to the void. Thank you.
Listen, Spackle was calm and respectful while Tina was yelling at her. Do they not understand what C-lining is? Do they not understand what trolling is to elicit a response? This is what I'm saying. These people that follow Katie Joy and Uni and all those other people, they have no critical thinking skills whatsoever. None. They just don't. They're into fallacies like tu quoque, whataboutism. Somebody said false equivalence, things of that nature. Yes, this is what they do because they don't.
All the things that Aaron does on the daily.
Don't care. All they want is a response. You know why they don't come to my channel any longer? They don't get a response because they're all blocked. I don't give a shit. I don't respond to any of them. I don't talk to any of them. I will never talk to them. That's why I didn't come in when they're here.
See, and that's like I should have probably set it up a little bit better with Spackle. Just like did the whole like muted microphone thing, so we each get a chance to talk because we were talking for each other. Mostly me trying to get a word in edgewise, but you know, and that's my issue though. No one gets heard. Nothing gets said. Nothing gets heard. You know what I mean? By the other person or by the people listening. You know, and that will never be resolved. There will never be resolution so long as that's the case.
But here's also the thing: you weren't allowing her. You weren't forcing her to answer questions. You just allowed her to gish gallop, right? And gish galloping is when you move from one topic to another, and she just.
Gish galloping is not just moving from one topic to another. Gish galloping is completely dominating the conversation, not letting the person get a word in edgewise. So if you talk long enough and you keep making your points long enough and you talk fast enough, you can keep going so that there's no pause in the conversation, no break in the conversation, so the person can't cut in. So it's a trick sometimes that people will use, and actually I was not using it at the time until I was getting screamed over. If I'm getting screamed over, then I'm going to start gish galloping just to get through my sentence. As soon as I get through my point, I'm going to stop gish galloping and allow you to respond and speak. But I do not gish gallop to allow no responses. So what would happen is, like in debates that we were in, sometimes we'd run into a creationist that would speak about this fast, maybe faster. I'm not always the quickest speaker because I'm SoCal, bro. But like generally they would speak really fast and they would make all these points about evolution and how evolution's dumb and how creationism is great. And they make all these points about like, how, they'll just list all these points, boom, 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 in a row. And after 20 minutes of talking with no break and no way to respond, then they would say one question, and then you would like try to respond to that one question that was relevant and want to go back to any of the other things that they stated maybe 20 minutes ago. But there's no chance to because they've gish galloped their way all the way through the conversation. But I think Tina's argument came out loud and clear. And if you remember, I repeated it back to her.
Just kept answering questions. Just shotgunning questions. This is a playbook that side of the fence uses because they can't have honest discourse. They'll get annihilated.
Yeah. And the whole the defense or whatever, like, oh, well, is there not corruption in the police force?
What does that do with anything?
That was a general.
That's a generalization, but it's a generalization with a point, which was like EKC. Like, do you think that all cops are like just good old boys? Like, like, or what's the deal here? I'm trying to like see where EKC's like why suddenly the KJP thing's an issue. Like, she doesn't defend cops before, like, and she's even been critical of cops occasionally. So yeah, like this whole like and it was referring to this whole like, well, the police did an investigation and they found nothing was wrong in a small town. Shocker.
Morality.
Hey, is the Ukraine war moral or not? What the hell is that going to do with what we're talking about?
That wasn't a red herring like that. That's a red herring and irrelevant, Steve. Yeah, that would be off subject, but I was on subject still.
Yeah, it's.
But I mean, yeah, you I mean, I can say you played into her a little bit, but it was entertaining. And I think that everybody now can safely say that yes, HolySpackle is a troll. I mean, what else could it go from that? I mean, come on. So yeah, it was worth it. But I just think that anybody who has her on, you're just looking for mockery. That's all it's for. What did she say about your face, by the way? I missed the word she used.
So let's see here. I have a different point of view. Stella Marie, their problem is they're thinking of absolutes. KJ told the story, therefore it's a lie, because KJ always lies. Therefore, gray areas and only people who really know what happened are KJ and the cop. I think holding a gray area space is acceptable if you feel very skeptical about something. I don't argue believe all women. That's something that somebody in chat was saying, and somebody said, "Oh, I defend Amber Heard" and stuff like that. I would say that it's definitely more complicated than that. I am Amber Heard is an absolute monster, and I would say that Johnny Depp is not a cakewalk. But what Amber did was really fucked up. But Johnny is no angel. So I kind of have a unpopular opinion on that. But I happen to be somebody that's experienced what it's like to be close to people that are addicts. And I can tell you it's not a cakewalk.
Like Sulcus, or I can't remember exactly.
I forget. Cirque
du Face.
Something like that. I don't even.
It's all the rage in France.
I couldn't hear. So I'm gonna have to
she called me improv. She called
definitely
me improv.
disparaging your looks. I know that.
You mean a woman disparaging another woman's looks?
It here in the chat. How nice of her.
What do they call her?
Cirque du Face.
Oh, circular. Okay.
Circular.
Yeah, that's what.
Circular face.
Cirque face.
No, Cirque du Soleil. Cirque du Soleil.
Cirque du Soleil. Yeah.
Cirque du Face.
I like Cirque du Soleil.
But instead of Soleil face.
Yeah. So
damn, they're really bad at slamming me. Get better.
Basically, she said you're a clown face.
Yeah. I guess. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe because I wear makeup, so I must be a clown.
She's really supporting women's rights by insulting a woman. Oh, that works.
I'm supporting women's rights or not supporting women's rights. It's very gray area there. Like, if I make fun of someone's makeup application, is it supporting women or is it attacking women? Is it like an all or nothing thing? If you complain that I wear a shirt that you don't, that you don't particularly like, is that an affront to all women? I'm just curious.
I guess whatever, right?
Wow, dude.
I'll make fun of your face because I look the way I do, kind of thing. Okay.
And then you see like his shock of like, you can't make fun of her makeup application. It's just so immoral. And then he slides in because I look the way I do. Yeah. This is the same man that did a side-by comparison of Sweet Heathen and saying, I'm with this woman who he actually was not. And there's a letter of her flipping out on him. I'm with this person and Todd's with this person. He picks like an unflattering picture of KJP, which there's many floating around. And then he picks a flattering picture of, Sweet, and he compares it, and he's just like, oh, and it's this weird like objectification. This guy, shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever.
Yep.
It's when you have nothing else to go to personal attacks.
I love how she's coming to all this aid and defense of Katie, but then like let's say that I was wrong by Katie. She's making a mockery of it by saying, "Can you show me where on the doll Katie hurt you?"
Right. She does.
She's making a mockery of my victimhood. My victimhood that KJP has hurt my feelings. Kind of. Kind of. I will lulz at Suzanne too. And I will lulz at Tina. The amount of whining that you guys do and the over obsession. Like, you need to rotate your people or something. Like, some of y'all are just a little bit too woo-woo.
Doesn't
What
care.
if Katie did hurt me? What the fuck
Yeah,
is that
what-
about?
Yeah.
She
didn't.
never talks about Katie lying about people, incessantly. She didn't talk. Did she ever say, "Oh, well, yeah, Katie filed 3 false TROs. Why'd she do that?" Well, just got to ignore that.
Yeah, she just as soon as Tina said that Katie dropped it, she kind of moved on from that shit.
That's gish galloping.
She doesn't want to. Yeah. Wow, dude. Fuck, man.
I'm more, again.
That's not gish galloping. That's deciding what is worth arguing about and what isn't. That's different. There are so many bunny trails I could have taken, and I decided to be laser focused.
And Erin can hold her own, and so can Tina. But the criticism that Tina has gotten by these trolls, it's not just unfair. I just call it straight up evil. I mean, and no offense, Erin, you kind of buy into.
It's evil. I love how he loses these terms. Like, go back to Mormonism, Steve. That's where you belong. It's fucking hilarious. It's evil, good and evil, all or nothing, black and white.
That stuff, and
no nuance. I'm a victim.
You kind of play with the trolls, and I get that. If you get burned, it's your thing because you play with fire. Tina doesn't.
It's entertaining.
Yeah, and I'm cool with that. That's not an insult. That's not even an invective or a negative thing. But Tina doesn't. And if they still try to go after her, that's evil. Go after Karen. She enjoys it for whatever reason. Okay, cool. But go after Tina. You're a piece of shit.
See,
I think I didn't go after Tina, really. I questioned Tina and asked her questions and tried to figure out why she supports this. She supports this. She may have not done it. She repeatedly, 3 times, said I wasn't the one that did this, but she's supporting it. And that's questionable. I think it's fair to question it. It's not evil, Steve.
CJ seems to think that I'm the only one exploiting trauma.
CJ, get him. CJ's chats are noticeably missing all the time, but CJ's fucking right.
Even though I'm not the one who's mentioned this in since 2020, but people keep fucking talking about it. They keep talking about it.
Yeah,
I'm the only one.
Yeah, 700
whatever.
Duggar videos. Okay, how many videos on? It's like these.
Steve, at one point, we social bladed him, and at one point when he was booming out about, it was right about the time where he was about slapped with a TRO. He was booming out on Twitter, and we social bladed him, and at that point, he was tweeting once every 4 minutes, and all of them were about Katie. Once every 4 minutes about Katie. And he was encouraging everybody to join in. And he's taking swings. At one point, he was swinging at her son and saying he doesn't look sick to me. Posts the picture. And he lost a lot of followers over that. He just completely lost his shit. He's one to complain about that. And as far as well, I think the handling of the Duggars is mishandled. I understand the interests because the Duggars were involved in a cult. I think it's a cult. And that's what she covers. And it's a very high profile situation. And that's what she covers. And if you've ever had a sensitivity about what I explained earlier about the Matthew 18 thing, go to your brother in private and work it out with him. And if he still won't listen, go to your elders. And don't go to the authorities. No. Just work it out on the down low in the church. And this abuse of the Matthew 18 system that you see in the Catholic Church, in evangelical churches, charismatic churches, cults, Jehovah's Witnesses, that use of that verse and that passage and how they use it and how they get people that are victims of abuse, either within their own families or even within from like a youth pastor, or if it was from like a senior pastor, the way that they get around accountability and how they do this in-house kind of whitewashing and handling of it. And it usually ends up with, I'm just going to cut to the chase of what it ends with. It's fucking disturbing. What it'll end with is, here's a worksheet of, working through, forgiveness, and you ought to forgive your offender. And just look into these Christian counseling from these kind of groups, and it's horrific. It's victim blaming. You have to forgive the person. And it'll quote verses like, you have to forgive this offender, because if you don't forgive them, God won't forgive you. And applying grace to them and forcing your hand and it's just disgusting. And yes, I completely understand why people are hooked on this, in the sense of like laser focus, like this is a problem. I think the focus should be not so much on the experience of the abuse and things like that. I think that should be censored. What I think should be the focus and this is my 2 cents on the Duggar issue, the focus should be on how to handle things when people come forward and say, so-and-so touched me, so-and-so arred me, so-and-so did these things to me. And because it's completely mishandled and it's horrific and it's a train crash, you get into these horrible situations where people are dealing with like injustice. They're dealing in unsafe environments. And it's called religious abuse. And it happens over and over and over again. And it's across multiple denominations, and it's especially in cults. So yeah, I understand why somebody like KJP might be hyper focused on the Duggars. I'm sorry, but it makes sense.
The trauma merchants are the ones that only talk about a topic because they find it to be lucrative. That's it. They don't talk about it because of any actual sense of moral or any kind of duty or responsibility. Erin did what she had to do with the police officer.
Yeah, you think,
honestly, and I do believe this 100%. She honestly felt.
You think that somebody that participated in the LDS church would also maybe know about this, since he's an agnostic now, right? But he defends Mormons and always sort of like whitewashes their participation too, because they have the same fucking issues.
Like that police officer needed a voice, an advocate. That's it. It wasn't to exploit anything. That's the difference.
These drama merchants don't actually want to help anybody.
So drama merchants like Molly Golightly, somebody that you seem to be palling around with a little bit, that you kind of liked on Twitter. That's a drama merchant for you. Drama merchants like Justin, who EKC was like, don't be mean to Justin earlier in the beginning of this stream before I came in. Drama merchants like that.
By the way, do you notice all the trolls coming at once? It's like they all live in the same
Trauma
house or something.
merchants.
All just the same theme, you know. Did you get autistic chills thing? Super chat. Are you frozen?
Yeah, frozen.
Yeah, she's frozen.
There you go.
I'm frozen.
Okay, there you go.
Did you get last super chat?
Wait. Oh. See.
Yeah, and by the way, who gets upset is not an indicator who's telling the truth or not.
Yeah.
It is true. If somebody's keeping their cool and the other person's passionate, it doesn't necessarily mean that the passionate person is wrong. If somebody is passionate, it doesn't necessarily mean they're right. But people sometimes walk around and say, there is this saying, I think Maya Angelou said it, people remember how you make them feel more than what you actually say or think. And so there is that to keep in mind when we do engage. And so sometimes when you fight or you're escalated, that is something to keep in mind. I didn't think that Tina was especially rude. I found her escalated and tense and angry. But I didn't feel that she was especially rude to me.
Oh no! Hey, we kicked her out. Hey, Brandon, welcome to the new EKC People Suck channel. We're going to be playing games all day long.
Oh wow!
And I'm having pizza, and I might even have some whiskey because we got some whiskey in the house now.
Oh, damn! I wish I had some. Shit.
What, you ran out?
Yeah.
How do you run out of whiskey, man? I thought you always kept that around.
Fuck, dude. I don't know.
Yeah. Now that we've taken over the channel, let's see here. You want to turn into a soft porn? We could do that.
That's appropriate. That's appropriate, Steve. Yep, that's cool. Let's talk about SH. Let's talk about KJP. Let's talk about R. Let's talk about victims and how they feel. Let's make that joke.
All right, let's ask some questions for the live chat. We're waiting while we're deciding whether we want to let Aaron back in or not. You know,
because we definitely have control over that.
Yeah. Hi, live chat. So you guys, were you entertained? Were you entertained by the HolySpackle coming in and make a total ass of herself by trying to defend the undefensible and by trying to pull every single fallacy out?
I don't think I defended the indefensible. I don't think that's right, Steve, but okay.
Wait.
Oh, she's back.
You guys have robot voice. You guys have robot voice.
How do you get back in? What?
You guys have robot voice. Am I the only one who hears it? Do you guys hear it too in the chat? I have them muted for a moment. Or I thought I did. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna put them back on and see what happens.
Okay, I don't think there's anything relevant out of this, but I'll play through a little bit more.
Yeah, you guys need to leave and come back in or something.
Right,
hold on.
Do something with your mic. Yeah.
Okay, I'll leave.
You too. Was it just me? Because like all I heard, you hear me? Maybe. All right.
Is that better?
Why is it roboting? You worked hard for this. Enjoy from F Bear, I Show, and Angel. Which
suffered through it, yes.
You suffered through it. And also, I think I saw a new member. Oh no, okay, it's a member chat. Aaron and Tina, heart.
Okay, so nothing else. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing this. Boop. Remove. Stop sharing. All right. So that was that. I think maybe like a video at some point might be helpful, just to kind of timeline what I was trying to get at and for it to make sense. But it's one of those things where you go in and you have to decide if it's worth it. Is it worth your emotional bandwidth to talk to these people? Is it, can you make a clear and concise argument that's not just emotive and flailing around everywhere? Can you keep your temper? Can you keep your buttons away from people like EKC to push? Because, like if you've ever experienced trauma, like it's a really difficult subject, so I would always say you kind of have to weigh your options when you engage in this subject. I think for me, one of the things I had to think about is like, if I bring this up, am I hurting Katie? And the answer is probably in some degree. And that is also a moral conundrum as well. And I remember discussing this with EKC, and she challenged me to the debate, and I was like, okay. And then I had to think about it. I was like, oh. But then after Balls did what they did and some other people, like I was like, this is never going to go away. If I don't address it, it's still a thing. If I do address it's a thing. Like it's sort of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't. So like in the beginning of this chat, it was like, like when I said, this is an issue, she said, oh, well, I'm going to do all this hurtful stuff every time you speak up. And every time you speak up, you are re-victimizing victims as she re-victimized victims. It's this weird, like, projection that I just dislike intensely with EKC. And she does it with the CP as satire thing too. Is a very similar technique of like, I think what she said in the beginning of this, that was the reason why I joined. I joined it because of what she said, and then also because of Tina being there. She said, oh, you must really obsess about R. And the way that I took it was, you like it, When I reread it, I think it's when I rewound it, it was "You obsess about R." So I took the link for that because I'm sick of it. And I took the link because of Tina. I mean, when are you going to get an opportunity to talk to Tina, you know? And she was saying I was a bully and I'm just a horrible person. So yeah, you know, challenge accepted. Generally though, if I'm not in a space where I can be calm, which happens sometimes, I won't join. I kind of know myself to know that sometimes it's not a good time, but it's a heavy subject and you kind of have to weigh in whether or not it's worth engaging or not. And you know, it's tough. It's tough to decide. But anyway, I think when I make a video about this, I think I'm going to have to just lay out a complete like storyboard before I go at it and not just do my usual like artistic, like by the fly kind of thing and just kind of lay it out strongly. But after that, I think I'll be done. Like it's just it is distressing. It does take attacks on you. And after that encounter, as calm as I am, like you can see that like I'm fidgeting and stuff like that with my pen and stuff because I had to put my energy somewhere. Like when I was getting a little bit frustrated, but after that, I felt so wound up that I couldn't sleep. I went to sleep maybe at 3 a.m. And kind of felt hungover the next day. I wasn't drinking at the time, but I felt like I was on Karen overload and I woke up with the biggest splitting headache ever. You know, you got to choose these encounters wisely if you want to engage in it. So, is it worth it? I don't know. But I tried. So, my takeaway is I feel like EKC is very dishonest and unwilling to actually tell the truth. And she doesn't think that people deserve the truth. And so she's not going to give it to you. I think that because it's KJP, it trumps everything. And so they're willing to go past boundaries if they hate you enough to do some things that are just, to me, a betrayal of anybody that's ever been a victim. If you've ever been a victim, this is an absolute betrayal. And it's one of those things where it is emotionally taxing. So unlike what Steve says, like, you know, like, oh, these people don't emotionally care or whatever, actually that's untrue. And it's one of those things where I'm trying to highlight like, hey, this is a problem. And so for people with ears to hear and eyes to see, that they'll notice it. And for people that are just so blinded by hatred of KJP and are willing to dehumanize her and do revenge, they're going to be fine with it. And there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing that you're going to change your mind on with those folks. So, yeah, I'm just kicking it here, listening to my coworkers scream yet again. I've had some practice with Karens before. I've done my rounds, but yeah. So anyway, I probably will go through a couple other Erin videos that are not on this subject, because I've noticed those too. And yeah, I really just like that woman. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like her. I'm not gonna whitewash and pretend that I like her. I know that she likes to play the game of like, I don't dislike Katie, but you fucking dislike Katie. Absolutely. Nobody that's neutral would do this sort of thing. Like you obviously hate her. But yeah, I just Erin, man, I'm not afraid to say I dislike somebody. It's not a thing. Thank you for acknowledging your conundrum. I haven't wanted to participate in more talk about this. The respect requested. Yeah, it's hard to know, right? And I think that's the other thing so that hits on something, Her Majesty. Some of the reason people stopped talking was because of that. But then it kept coming up over and over and over again. Because these weirdos like Clear Balls that account would put stuff out. And so then you're going to go, well, no matter what, if I say nothing, it's still around. If I say something, it's still around. It's a very damned if you do, damned if you don't. And so that's the other thing that EKC is not acknowledging is like, oh, well, now it's a big deal because X, Y, and Z, but it wasn't a big deal about then. And it's like, well, actually, it was a big deal, and people were trying to be respectful. It's complicated, right? And she knows that. It's the same complication of why people that experience trauma and experience a bad experience might not talk about it till years later. She's saying, oh, that happened 13 years ago. Why then, after 13 years, would you talk? The only thing that triggered her to talk was me requesting her report. Like that somehow like it got you. No, like it kind of makes sense, EKC. It makes sense why somebody would respond like that. It's just I don't get her. I don't get her at all. I mean, I comprehend what she's saying, but I don't want to understand somebody that thinks like this, like in a take it on my worldview kind of way, because it horrifies me. And I just don't know. So yeah, it's really tough. It's infuriating to hear people that spread information about how the system works. It's complicated, right? So I knew somebody who was R'd and it was violent, and it's easier to prove a violent R. And it was also a horrible experience. So like when she describes the experience of going to the cops, it's horrible. It's not good. So I don't know what needs to change exactly, but I think like it would be interesting to see maybe what psychologists and advocates and people that are in law enforcement could do to change this to make it less horrific. But that's a whole nother subject. Anyway, I wish I could have made this lighter and happier, but it's not a happy subject. It's not. It's taxing, and I even have a headache even now. So I'm going to go. I appreciate everybody that's shown up. If you could hit a like, if you think that this was helpful at all, you can share. If you have a disagreement in the comment section, and you can not be a dick about it and just be, chill, you can put that there. I can tell you right now, if you're an EKC follower, and you happen to run across this and you watch this and you're somebody that like has a problem with me and stuff, whatever. But I can tell you this comment here. Let me see if it'll load. Hi, I'm Lisa. Our herpaderpaderp. Okay, let's see here. There's a lot of comments. Where'd it go? See if it'll show. This one here. This one's a very noticeable one. For one thing, it's tone deaf. So if I'm talking about this subject, and it's a pretty heavy subject, it's fucking tone deaf to say that I'm gonna lick KJ's box. Second of all, it sounds homophobic to me. Third of all, besides it being inappropriate to the whole conversation, it's kind of harassing in this way. And so I'm not going to make a huge deal about it, but I would say that it's fucking rude. It's not something that I did to them. So I don't know. It was just something I noticed. It was something that Aaron is celebrating here. Celebrate, go where you're celebrated, and thinks it's funny. So I said a sarcastic, comment back and said, "Oh, I'm not into blondes like you." But I think things like that, and they were happening in chat, and they were happening all throughout. I think it's noticeable, and it kind of explains why there's a whole group of you that are willing to be cool with the things that EKC does. So it's too bad. It's too bad for you. Anyway, I'm gonna I'm going to log out, and y'all have a good week. It's the start of the week, so we're chugging up the hill. If you guys can be excellent to each other, unless someone's a complete asshole, and then humanize them, but give them some pushback. That's great. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. Till next time. Bye.